Many producers just sit home, scratch their crotch, and say, great show.
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Thursday, April 25th, 2019. This is your award-winning Gitmo Nation Media Assassination, episode 1132.
This is No Agenda.
We are the Netflix of news and broadcasting live from the frontier of Austin, Texas, capital of the Drone Star State. In the morning, everybody, I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where we're host Zephyr, I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
We're what? What did you say?
Post Zephyr.
Oh, yeah, you were really soft there for a moment. You were like, oh, I'm John C. Dvorak.
Hi, John.
Post Zephyr. Yeah, Post Zephyr.
Post Zephyr.
Sorry, we're a little late for those of you listening on the live stream. Yes, we now have Joe Biden in the race.
Yeah, it's about time.
Who I call Spike Biden.
Spike? Did you spike the ball?
Yeah, Spike Biden, because he's telling a lie.
Spike, okay. I don't quite get the joke.
Well, of course you don't, because I'm going to unpack that for you. Joe Biden announced this morning that he's running for the 2020 presidential election. And here's what he's running on.
Charlottesville, Virginia is home to the author of one of the great documents in human history. We know it by heart. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. We've heard it so often, it's almost a cliche, but it's who we are. We haven't always lived up to these ideals. Jefferson himself didn't, but we have never before walked away from them. Charlottesville is also home to a defining moment for this nation in the last few years. It was there on August of 2017 we saw Klansmen and white supremacists and neo-Nazis come out in the open. Their crazed faces, illuminated by torches, veins bulging and bearing the fangs of racism, chanting the same anti-Semitic bile heard across Europe in the 30s. And they were met by a courageous group of Americans, and a violent clash ensued. And a brave young woman lost her life. And that's when we heard the words of the President of the United States that stunned the world and shocked the conscience of this nation. He said there were, quote, some very fine people on both sides. Very fine people on both sides? With those words, the President of the United States assigned a moral equivalence between those spreading hate and those with the courage to stand against it. And in that moment, I knew the threat to this nation was unlike any I had ever seen in my lifetime.
Okay, so this goes on for another 2 minutes. Joe is running on the lie that the president insinuated that some neo-Nazis are very fine people. And the reason I call him Spike Biden is because I finally got to finish the Black Klansman movie. And I told you that I hadn't finished yet. I didn't know it was 18 hours long. But I said, there's all this Trump stuff, all these little quotes like rapists and murderers and things that are coming directly from him that he slipped into the dialogue. And at the end of the movie, I know you haven't seen it, and I have a feeling not many people have seen the whole movie. No one.
If it's 18 hours long, there's a good reason.
I'll tell you, because I mentioned this on the last episode. No one emailed me or tweeted me and said, oh, wait until you get to the end of the movie. And so this was so incredibly dishonest. So the movie kind of ends, and then there's this, long tunnel-like shot, one of those where the background moves really fast and the two people in the foreground are standing there. And then it goes into this montage.
You had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent.
Nazis go home!
Not all of those people were neo-Nazis, believe me. Not all of those people were white supremacists. You also had people that were very fine people.
Because I believe that today in Charlottesville, this is a first step.
That's David Duke, by the way. So it goes from very fine people were there, and it goes straight to David Duke. So what is wrong with...
Yes, wow.
Well, wait for it. What is really wrong with this? Couple things. One, so they date these scenes, and you see the torch, the torches, and the Jews will not replace us.
Yeah.
And then it goes into Antifa clashing with, the white supremacists. And it's not a black, so the whole movie is about black, and there's a side story of a Jew cop. I'm just saying it that way because that's how it's said in the movie. So there's kind of a side story, and then it goes, but it's really all about the 65, 66, 67, the equal rights, how blacks were discriminated against. The whole movie is that, of course, about the Klan. But it's all white people you see, and then they title it Charlottesville, August 11th, 2017, and then they show Trump at Trump Tower. It's also titled with a lower third, August 12th, 2017. That's a lie, first of all, because his initial reaction that Trump gave, his initial statement, which was not the press conference at Trump Tower, was on August 12th, but this was August 15th. When he gave this speech. So you just heard in fact, I'm going to just roll that back just a tiny bit so you can just hear again, because he took a piece, then put in some more footage, and then went into the quote and then chopped it off. So again, here we go.
Because I believe that today in Charlottesville, this is a first...
Oops, sorry, that was David Duke already. Here we go.
So very violent.
Nazis go home!
Not all of those people were neo-Nazis, believe me. Not all of those people were white supremacists. You also had people that were very fine people.
Because I believe that today...
And then he goes straight into David Duke. Here's the original.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E.
So all that was taken out.
Lee to another name. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too.
So I think it's a little bit out of context.
Well, of course, this has been thematic, and of course, it's thematic with our show's principles, which is that once they create a meme that's false.
It's there forever.
Meme.
It's there
false
forever.
Meme-ification.
Yeah.
Is what they do, and then they stick with it no matter how many times you bring out the real quotes, which include this screed against the fascists or the Nazis.
But for Joe Biden to be running on that out of the gate is
Joe Biden's obviously an idiot.
Well, he must believe this, and B, the people who are advising him must believe this.
I think they do believe it, and no one's ever bothered to actually look into it. They're just going with that's what the public thinks anyway. So what?
Well, and this is not about Donald Trump. I've been through this. I've had this happen to me. You've had this happen to you. When you get certain things that just become truth forever and ever, I always like to point it out. Like when people say, "Oh, Dvorak said the mouse is stupid, no one wants it." I said, no. He said there's no evidence. At the time, there was no evidence.
No, this is 1984.
Right. So I want to defend that. I defend it for you. I defend it for anybody. But to have Joe Biden running on that out of the gate, I'm sure that's not his only point. But man.
Well, besides that and all the baggage, he's actually on my list of contenders list, which I post on the Cosmic Weenie. I bumped him down because of I think he's going to keep getting bumped down.
Oh, really? Because
Bernie's at the top.
Oh, right. All the polls say, Biden's even ahead of Trump now.
Lies.
And what about Mayor Pete?
He's moving up.
Mayor Pete had a very...
Your whole theory, by the way, about that is right on the money. And you can see him moving up. There's this big story today. And they said, with all these fine women, Kamala Harris and Warren, and I don't know if they mentioned Clinton, but they had mentioned somebody else, Klobuchar. Yeah. With all these fine women running, how come Mayor Pete is shooting past them in the polls?
Well, could it be this?
You can call it whatever you like.
This is about sanctuary cities from the CNN town hall.
You can call it whatever you like. That's our policy. We're a welcoming city, and I guess the president thinks America's full. We're not. I would be delighted to have more people. We have a population growth strategy in our city. Our city was built for 130,000 people, but we only have 100,000 because so many people left after the auto factories collapsed.
100,000? What kind of... This is not a city. This is a hamlet. This is a hamlet.
In the 60s. We got plenty of room for more residents and taxpayers who want to help fund the snow plowing and the firefighters that I got to have for 130,000 people's worth of city with only 100,000 people to pay for it. And let us not forget that in many respects, from property taxes to sales taxes, undocumented immigrants are taxpayers. And the truth is, in many respects, because they are not eligible for a lot of benefits, they are subsidizing the rest of us, which is just one more reason we got to get this sorted out.
Thank you, illegal aliens. Thank you. Thank you for subsidizing my life. It's so appreciated.
Oh, brother.
Guys, hi.
This guy. Yeah, 100,000. I mean, when I think of cities, I think of like Mexico City, 14 million.
Yeah. I mean, Austin's barely a city.
Yeah, what is Austin's population?
No, 1 million. We got 1 million.
Yeah, it's 1 million.
Yeah.
That's at least.
And they're all in traffic.
Something other than, you're right, a hamlet. He runs a small town. 100,000 is big for a lot of.
But he has what he calls a positive growth strategy, which would be, I don't know, encourage people to have children. No.
That would be, make it a family-friendly city. That would do it.
Now, there's an idea. Family-friendly city.
You want to get your population up and bring in families.
There's an idea. We're trying to be family-unfriendly in Austin.
Oh, yeah. Dog-friendly.
Oh, my goodness. Stop with the dogs. So you were tracking Hillary, did she do an op-ed? She's starting to, her head's popping up every which way. She's making commentary everywhere. I didn't see an op-ed, but I'm sure she's done a few. I think she wrote an op-ed, and she was on stage at some Time magazine event. And, I have a clip.
The 100 most influential people event.
Oh, is she in that? She must be.
I don't know.
She must be.
I didn't look at the list.
Here's what
behind the firewall.
Here's what she had to say about, of all things, my goodness, the Mueller report.
Before leaving Mueller, you're a lawyer.
Mm-hmm. You're a lawyer. Disbarred, but yeah, you're a lawyer.
Did Donald Trump obstruct justice as you read the incidences as Mueller lays them out?
Well, I think there's enough there that any other person who had engaged in those acts would certainly have been indicted, but because of the rule in the Justice Department that you can't indict a sitting president, the whole matter of obstruction was very directly sent to the Congress. I mean, if you read that part of the report, it could not be clearer. I mean, as I read it, basically what I thought it was saying is, look, we think he obstructed justice. Here are 11 examples of why we think he obstructed justice, but we're under the control of the Justice Department, and their rule is you can't indict. But we do have checks and balances in America, and there is this thing called the Congress. I mean, you could not be more explicit than, please, look at this. You may look at it and conclude it doesn't rise to an impeachable offense. That's your job, but I'm giving this to you.
Wow.
So she
put a bunch of stuff in there that's not in there.
Well, quite the opposite is in fact true. As I think it was the Attorney General, or was it Mueller, was asked specifically, the Attorney General was asked specifically if there was no indictment on obstruction of justice because you can't indict a sitting president, to which he answered no several times. This came up on with Crystal Ball, which I think is a great radio name. But she's on, what is she on? I think she's on.
We bitched about her before. She used to be on MSNBC regular with your buddy Touré.
Ah, yes. Well, now she's on Hill TV, and she had Joe DeGenoa on as a guest, and hilarity ensued, we shall say. But it starts off with exactly this point.
Barr said he asked Mueller 3 separate times, did you base your decision on the fact that a sitting president cannot be indicted? And Mueller said, I did not.
It literally says, here are the considerations that guided our obstruction of justice investigation.
Is Mueller a liar?
Well, I'm asking if Barr is a liar is really the question here, because it says very clearly here that one of the considerations was
Mueller then should have said, I would have brought charges because there's evidence, but I can't bring charges.
That's exactly what he should have done. So let me just say something right now about what you just said. Don't you dare suggest that Bill Barr is a liar. I've known him for 30 years. He's one of the finest lawyers this country has ever produced. He came back out of retirement to serve this country. There's not one shred of evidence that anything he said either the other day or now or today was a lie. Don't ever say that in front of me about Bill Barr. You have no evidence that he lied, and you know it.
But I'm telling you.
You said he may have lied.
What I'm telling you is that what he said this today in the press conference is inconsistent with what's in the report.
That's not a lie.
That's okay, fine.
It's not fine. You're on national television calling the Attorney General a liar.
I didn't say that.
You suggested it very strongly.
All right, I think we're done here.
I think we are. Good.
That's the best kind of television, though. I love it when people get really
that's
upset.
The stuff that people love to see.
Yeah,
cat fight.
That's what you want, man. That is
but
the best.
Now, but the host, for one thing, the host can't handle that, especially her.
No.
She's sensitive.
Before we get into a very,
she's just playing her old MSNBC game there, and this guy was just like putting up with it.
Well, he's playing his Fox game, isn't he? On Fox all the time. DeGenoa? Yeah, I think so. I think he's a Fox guy. Now, before I move into any collusion, I got a text just before the show, and this is something for your Cosmic Weenie rundown. This is from one of the millennials, and she says, just so you know, front runner for my age group and education level is Elizabeth Warren. And to which and of course I was dealing with the mic issues, and so I texted back, well, of course, no more debt. And she got a little offended because, it's just a text. I said, no, I'm agreeing with you. She says, yes, this is exactly what we're all saying. We have tens of thousands of dollars worth of debt. We'll vote for someone to remove that. The question is, can she motivate them to vote?
Well, if once they realize that she's full of crap, she is a do-nothing senator. She has never done anything. She talks a big game. And if you're going to be suckered by somebody just talking a big game, they talked a big game, I'm going to vote for her, then it's a problem you've got. But she's not viable as a candidate with that platform. It does get attention, though.
Oh, it gets lots of. I understand it. I'd be like, yes, please, get rid of my debt. Absolutely. There's no future, or the future seems somewhat.
Even get rid of Rachel, the robocaller.
Even though she tried. Rachel, the robocaller. So you tweeted something very important the other day.
I did?
Yes, you did.
I need more followers.
It was a deconstruction of the written transcript, or maybe it was the record of the FISA renewal hearing, which took place in, what was that, 2017, I think?
I don't remember.
The end of 2017. And it was with Admiral Rogers, who runs the NSA. Stuff. And I'm going to try and paraphrase it, but what comes out of this report is the real reason for the Russia collusion meme. And I'm just going to help me out here, because I did pull two clips just to accentuate it. But in general, around 2016, Rogers discovered that there were consultants inside the NSA database, and they were either directly doing so-called about queries, which means you can just take a phone number or an IP address and say, hey, click box 17, tell me who this is. Then it will spit that back, and then that was being exported outside of the NSA to, again, and contractors is not all that uncommon. Ed Snowden was a contractor, as an example. And so it came to light that this was taking place, and it turns out it was happening since... Yes?
I'll give you a little more backup. Rogers noticed just on his dailies, his briefings, that the numbers of these queries had skyrocketed.
Yeah, let's play that clip, and then this is exactly what he's saying. This is Senator Lankford, who, of course, understands this is all showboating. So he knows exactly what he's asking, and Rogers knows exactly what he's answering.
Admiral Rogers, this spring, NSA decided to stop doing about queries. That was a long conversation that's happened there. It's now come out in the public about that conversation, that was identified as a problem. The court agreed with that, and that has been stopped. What I need to ask you is, who first identified that as a problem?
The National Security Agency did.
Okay, so how did you report that? Reported that to who? How did that conversation go once you identified we're uncomfortable with this type?
So in 2016, I had directed our Office of Compliance, let's do a fundamental baseline review of compliance associated with 702.
Okay.
We completed that effort. My memory is I was briefed on something like October the 20th. That led me to believe the technical solution that we put in place is not working with the reliability that's necessary here. I then, from memory, went to the Department of Justice and then on to the FISA court at the end of October. I think it was something like the 26th of October, and we informed the court we have a compliance issue here, and we're concerned that there's an underlying issue with the technical solution we've put in place. We told the court we were going to need some period of time to work our way through that. The court granted us that time. In return, the court also said, we will allow you to continue 702 under the 16 authorizations, but we will not reauthorize 17 until you show us that you have addressed this.
So what he was seeing was, and there's a follow-up clip to this, what he was seeing was a high number of errors occurring based upon people doing an about query, and he felt that the about query is really, that's close to unmasking. And this database, and according to Section 702, is not allowed to be used to spy on American citizens in the U.S., American citizens abroad. Foreign nationals in the U.S. also not allowed to spy on them. There can only be incidental unmasking if you're tracking someone in another country, not a U.S. national, who happens to be talking about or to an American, but that could be inside the United States, and that would be accidental. And here's what happened.
When you say greater reliability, tell me what you mean by that.
Because it was generating errors. Our Office of Compliance highlighted the specific number of cases in 2016, and I thought to myself, clearly it's not working as we think it is. We were doing queries unknowingly to the operator in a handful of situations against U.S. persons, and I just said, hey, that is not in accordance with the intent of the law.
Yeah, clearly it's not only the intent, it's the actual statute
Correct,
itself.
Right, the statute,
that we protect U.S. persons from.
Yes, sir.
This is foreign directed. So what I'm hearing from you is the accountability system worked.
Yes, sir.
That the issue rose up. We're collecting. We do have information on U.S. persons. We don't want to get that information. Immediately, the process started going through to be able to stop it. The court then put the final stop on it. It was corrected, and then that's now cleared.
Yes, sir. And in fact, we're purging the data as well. Not only have we stopped doing it, but we're purging the data that we had collected under the previous authorization.
So what did not come out in this hearing, but was in this written transcript and links in the show notes, was a fantastic breakdown by, what was that, the Conservative Treehouse? Was that a Breitbart operation? Who is that?
I have no idea.
Something like that. Is that, so that ability stopped at the end of 2016 because it was being abused and they shut it down. But what we find out is this had been going on since 2012. And the only explanation for that is that the Obama administration most likely with State Department were spying on all kinds of Americans since 2012. All of a sudden, it stopped. That's when Hillary writes in an email, we're all going to hang together because spying on Americans will send you to jail for a long time. And the insurance policy that Page and Strzok spoke about was not to stop Donald Trump from becoming president. It was to insert the Steele dossier into the spying they had already done as justification so that the spying would not come above board. Then all of a sudden, because she didn't become president, they trigger the so-called insurance policy, and then they're able to bring in Bob Mueller, who knows this extremely well. He's been a part of how this system works. In fact, he also oversaw the PRISM system, which started as PROMIS. Do you remember the PROMIS system? It was a
Yes, I do remember it vaguely.
It was a Silicon Valley company called Inslaw. And they developed this database that they licensed to the NSA and FBI, and Bob Mueller was overseeing it. And people were throwing everything in here. Then they loved it. It became this massive, massive collection of VIN numbers on cars and house titles and credit cards, and everyone's just jamming it in there. It was really the precursor to PRISM, and PRISM we heard about from Snowden, of course, and now this is all tied into these new surveillance databases. And Mueller, I don't want to say he was directly responsible, but they all of a sudden they said to this little Silicon Valley company, Inslaw, "Nah, we're not interested anymore. We're not gonna use you anymore." But then they just kept using it, and they kept giving copies of the database and the actual program to other countries, because they would call Inslaw and say, "Hey, we need some tech support," but they never bought the program. Put this company out of business. It's a great story.
I think people died in the process, too.
I don't know about that. That's why I was hoping you would remember this.
You can do a Google search. A number of people died. Somebody looking into it died.
I didn't know that.
A bunch of people died. Yeah, the government was killing them.
So for me, it's like, oh my God, this whole thing is a complete sideshow with buy-in from the media and all political parties, and it's what a fantastic cover-up.
Yeah.
And so Mueller was in there just making sure that all of that goes away. And you heard Admiral Rogers say, "Oh, no, we're purging all that data, too." I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear you covering up the tracks of who might have exported that, or hopefully he didn't. And wasn't it Rogers who went to Trump and said, "Hey, man, they're spying on you"?
Yes. That was Rogers.
There you go. So that's what went down. This was to save their own hides from 20, 30 years in jail if it ever comes out. And of course, it was Susan Rice's name who was used, and who's the whack job who was the ambassador to the UN. She's with Cass Sunstein.
Oh yeah, her.
The redhead?
Sunstein's wife.
Samantha Power. Thank you, Troll Room.
Power.
Yeah.
Well, I have a Bob Woodward clip on this. And this
yes,
is kind of,
I had the same one, but this is a good clip, yeah.
This clip does bring in another element, which is that we always have to readjust our thinking about Bob Woodward. Came out of military intelligence, and probably still gets a paycheck from somebody, because there's all these books he does. Is just no one person can do those. So somebody's writing them. I mean, he's writing them. Probably,
well, didn't he write on his blog, still available, that CIA is all over the media integrated? Wasn't that his?
No, that's
the actual spy. Oh, okay.
No, neither one of them. I think Woodward's I believe to be the actual spy, based on the stories told in Family of Secrets by Russ Baker. He brings up all this information that makes it obvious, but I always have to reset myself, because I don't think he was ever in the CIA. I think he's always been part of defense intelligence.
Oh, could be.
Because he came out of Navy intelligence. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense. Or it could still be a Navy intelligence, which is one of the oldest intelligence services in the country. Goes back to the 1700s. Anyway, but let's listen to what he has to say, and he kind of slams the CIA in this.
Yes. More than 2 years ago, back in January of 2017, when the Steele dossier first surfaced, I remember you're saying right here on this show that it is a, quote, garbage document. Do you feel that the Mueller report basically discredited it, and to what degree do you think it played a role in the Russia investigation?
Well, that's what's going to be investigated by lots of people, including the Attorney General and including Senator Lindsey Graham.
And the Inspector General is also doing it.
Yes, and it should be. I mean, what I found out recently, which was really quite surprising, the dossier, which really is got a lot of garbage in it, and Mueller found that to be the case early in building the intelligence community assessment on Russian interference. In an early draft, they actually put the dossier on page 2 in kind of a breakout box. I think it was the CIA pushing this. Real intelligence experts looked at this and said, no, this is not intelligence, this is garbage, and they took it out. But in this process, the idea that they would include something like that in one of the great stellar intelligence assessments, as Mueller also found out, is highly questionable. Needs to be investigated.
Now, how would he even know that in a draft it was on page 2 unless he was really in the know?
He's really in the know.
So, as I think we agreed, and the thesis of the show is this Mueller investigation was a cleanup, a mop-up of this spying for 4 years on perhaps political opponents. There was also insinuation that the IRS scandal, that original IRS database, which was delivered on compact discs to the office of Eric Holder, that was the original political spying. So if this indeed is what it looks like, a cleanup operation, I don't think Mueller was able to make it clean that no one gets busted. I think there needs to be a fall guy.
Or a couple.
Well, I'm thinking Strzok and Page.
You know, Strzok and Page are targets, but they're a little too convenient, it seems to me.
Well,
but you could probably put a case around Strzok and Page and make it look like they're just a couple of rogue FBI folk.
Well, they're the ones talking about the insurance policy in text messages, so that's kind of smoking gun.
Yeah.
Once we understand what that means.
Well, he's never fully explained it.
No, but maybe that's what Mueller put in place.
I don't know. We'll find out. This is rolling out kind of nice and smoothly.
But it's mind-boggling to me because we already thought this, but then when I read that whole FISA transcript, I'm like, oh, man, everything has been a sideshow. The whole kit and caboodle. And now I can't watch any of these discussions. It's just dumb. It's completely dumb. There's nothing to do with what happened. And other people must have figured this out. It can't be just us here in our little no agenda hole.
Oh, I'm sure a lot of people. I mean, when you see even Woodward when he's talking on that Chris Wallace's show,
I think he's covering his own ass for shit he said.
Kind of. At the same time, he probably knows a lot more than he's ever going to talk about on TV.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, then we've solved that. We've solved the collusion.
I have, here's a good one.
Yeah.
So lighten things up. So Zuckerberg has a podcast now.
Yeah, which I was excited at first, and then it turns out it's just going to be some.
You probably didn't want to listen to the whole thing.
No, of course not.
And so I did cut a few things out, but for the most part, I think I've got the essence of his podcasting skills.
Hold on, stop. Whenever you say you cut a few things out, I'm thinking there's a John C. Dvorak montage of epic proportion coming down the pipe.
Well, let's find out.
Hey, everyone. Today, I've traveled to Berlin that publishes, and you've really dedicated your career to and I don't know if you want to start off there. We have a lot of stuff to cover, and in the
Let me guess. You have quite a beard growth this morning. Seeing as you used all your razor blades.
No.
Good one.
That's pretty much the podcast.
There's a lot of podcast news today.
And before you go into the podcast news, I want to say, did you listen to DH Unplugged? Yeah. Horowitz apparently found some research that indicates there are 500,000 podcasts.
Oh, I'm sure. It's just like
sure.
It's just like blogs. Now, the best. There's two things happening, and the best is this Netflix of podcasting, which I've now heard. Spotify is going to be the Netflix of Amazon, Audible was going to be the Netflix of podcasting, and now we have this new app, Luminary, the Netflix of podcasting, where you become they have exclusive podcasts that you can't get anywhere except inside their app.
Yeah, great.
But
no one's going to listen to those podcasts.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, didn't we go through all of this once before? Haven't we been around this horn? So first about being the Netflix of anything. It's like being the Uber of anything. Yeah. Someone said correctly, well, Reed Hastings is worth the $3.7 billion. Yeah. They burn $10 million a month at Netflix. They're not in a money-making operation, nor is Uber. They are not money-making companies.
Uber's really losing this butt.
Yeah, so they lose. Netflix had to pay $100 million just to keep Friends on their system. You know, and when you are the conduit between the content and the consumer, it is a horrible business to be in. Trust me, I know. It's true. Because the minute you have success with something, the price goes up. That's just how it works. So Friends hasn't been on for 20 years now? When did Friends go off the $100 million in licensing fee?
Yeah.
But, so here's the problem. Another mistake that is an obvious one, and we've seen it happen before with this Luminary. So, of course, they want to make free podcasts like the No Agenda Show available to people in their super secret app. And so, so they're paying certain, I think, they have some famous people doing podcasts. That doesn't matter. Good on them. So, someone's making some good money doing a show for this Luminary outfit. But, and this happened, we've seen this before, and I can't believe that they fell for it or didn't do their research. Apparently, in that app, they are sucking in the individual shows. So this episode, which would be NA-1132-209-04-25-final.mp3, they store that on their own server so that they can count downloads against it to ultimately sell ads around our show or any other free show.
Sure.
Well, that's a copyright violation. You can't do that.
How is it a copyright violation?
You literally take a copy of our show and sell ads around it. That's a violation.
Yeah, but aren't we common with attribution? Isn't that? I think it's doable.
Yeah, so what if in the middle of the show, all of a sudden there's a stop and then an ad comes on? You're okay with that?
There isn't it. That can't be done.
But they can do it right before the show starts?
I would think so, yeah.
We understand that a lot of other podcasters who do not employ the value for value model are A, angry because they won't get a piece of that. B, they can't track it. They can't track how many people used Luminary to play the show.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Yeah. So this is a backlash of epic and yet in completely predictable proportions for this $100 million startup. What a bunch of idiots.
Well, there depends on what you call idiot. They are possibly just working on the investment dime. In other words, you give yourself you can't overdo it, but you can live for a couple of years on a couple $100 million investment into your company. You have to pay a lot of people to keep the spinning plates in the air.
Yeah,
but it's something to do.
The thing is, we've been through this. I mean, even Pod Show had a version of this.
This is on the investors. The investors, the dumb money that puts money into these things, never. What's the last time, for example? There are major companies that put money into these podcasting schemes. Gimlet and all the rest of them are highly financed.
Yeah.
Has any of the VCs, the venture capital guys, the guys who really have to do due diligence because it's usually somebody else's money they're using, did they ever call Adam Curry, the guy who invented the whole thing and actually ran a network called Pod Show? Does anybody ever call you just routinely to talk to you so they don't make a stupid mistake when they throw the money down the drain?
No. Never.
No.
Never.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah. It's so now because of this, there's calls for unionization.
Yes, this is
again.
This is our both. I think we both join on this as being the silliest thing ever.
Podcast monetization problems, a call for unionization and platform exclusivity. This, too, has been discussed 15 years ago. We've been through all of it. You can probably just Bing it, and you will find the answers to these problems, which are, fuck, you can't do it. It's not going to happen. It's not how it works. Most people do not deserve to make money with their podcast because it doesn't attract enough interested people, or it's just shit. It's like blogs. I remember the blog was the same thing. Well, I'm writing now. I should get paid for my writing. We went through this just over and over again.
Well, this reminds me of the British Podcast Awards.
Oh, yes. This is sponsored by BBC.
BritishPodcastAwards.com/vote. You can go there. Now, they do have their categories, but you can't vote on those. But there's a thing at the top that says vote, and it's called the People's Choice Awards.
Yep.
If you type in the search engine "no agenda," you will see a whole list of no agenda connections.
Yeah, with a phony baloney show is the first one, which pisses me off.
The first one on my list was the No Agenda podcast.
The first one was the No Agenda podcast with the Rolling Stones tongue. Is that what you voted for?
I didn't vote.
You didn't vote for your own show?
Well,
what kind of Academy member are you?
I'm going to vote.
It's the second one.
I was on a phone browser and I couldn't see anything to vote on. But so the first one's a fake?
Yeah. There's 5 or 6 in there, and it doesn't. It just says no agenda. It doesn't say the official no agenda.
Well, this is a scam then.
Yes.
We'll
never get our Peabody this way.
It works me.
There were podcasts that won Peabody Awards, by the way.
Yeah, but they're all repurposed broadcast shows.
Yeah, it's all NPR stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there was not one real podcast. Yeah. Well, I'm disappointed if what you said is true.
Yeah. Happy Anzac Day, New Zealand and Australia. As we've done this before. 25th of April, 1915. New Zealand and Australia remember the landings at Gallipoli, I think it is. Gallipoli, the first major international war action neither of their armies was involved in. So they
what?
Yeah, well, it's like a
I don't remember this bit.
It's like a Veterans Day.
Huh.
Gallipoli. Well, I just wanted to say Happy Anzac Day. I remember the last time we talked about it, we couldn't figure out what Anzac meant. And of course, the NZ is for New Zealand, and we have Australia.
Well, this is also the little period where the Spanish-American War started in 1898.
Yes, you wrote quite extensively about that in the newsletter.
Well, not too extensively, but extensively enough that it killed the
no one donated
component.
Well done. Hey, nice. Hey, I want some content in the newsletter. Okay, stop begging for money. Content. Okay, here's some content. Yeah. We Yes, exactly.
I feel obliged to put content in the newsletter once in a while, and it's just it always comes out the same.
Yes, it doesn't work. It's not a good idea.
Doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
People talk a big game again. Elizabeth Warren. Everybody talks a big game about wanting content, but when you give it to them, they don't.
You get right down to it. Nah, not really. No.
But that was quite the phony baloney war, and one of our early false flags.
Yes.
It blew up the Maine.
I like the picture.
The photo with the little sailors flying in the air?
Blasted into the sky.
The worst.
There was let me see. What do I want to do? I have a couple. I found a lot of hoax and fake things. Actually, if we can just switch to Green New Deal for a second.
I think we can do that.
Which I'm sure you're happy to do. PBS had a guy on, Adam Higginbotham, and he's written a book about Chernobyl. I would say the most used example of reasons not to employ or deploy nuclear energy, because, hey, tens of thousands of people died, people all over Europe got cancer. It was horrible. Or was it? I'm pretty sure. What have we said consistently on this show for the past 11 years about Chernobyl?
I don't know.
That it was bullshit. That there was not, that tens of thousands of people didn't die, and that
the thing did melt down. It wasn't bullshit.
No, it melted down, sure, but it's not like the area is dead. It's greener than it's ever been. They've capped that thing off. It was a military nuclear facility, so it was more severe than anything. But it's pretty much aside from Fukushima, and most people from Fukushima died from the tsunami. This has always been heralded as all these people died. So this guy's written a book, and it's really about technology and how we shouldn't trust technology. But some interesting details came out. This is PBS.
This is almost 33 years ago, and here you are putting out a book now. What's untold about it?
Well, I would say that the principal aspect of what's untold about it is that this version of the story is true.
What did we get wrong?
Well, because the Soviet government did such an excellent job of attempting to cover up the truth at the beginning. Most people's conceptions of what happened are kind of rooted in the initial propaganda that the Soviet Union put out, and also the misinformation that resulted from a lack of information. So, for example, a lot of people still think that tens of thousands of people died almost immediately as a result of this accident.
That's not the case.
That's not the case. But part of the reason for that is Western correspondents in Moscow weren't allowed access to any information. So they did their best with kind of rumors and hearsay, with the result that I think within a week of the accident, the New York Post was reporting that 15,000 people had died and their bodies buried in a nuclear waste dump somewhere in Ukraine.
And when in fact it was what?
When in fact the death toll from the accident by that point was 2.
2?
One man died in the initial explosion. A second man died by dawn that day as a result of burns he sustained in the explosion.
And then how do we calculate the ones who sort of got horrible cancers?
I mean, the official figures are that within 5 months, another 29 people had died as a result of radiation exposure they received in those few hours after the first explosion. But then when you start to try...
2. Not 15,000, 2. And then another 29 from direct exposure to the open cores at the time. And that's just kind of glossed over.
Oh. Tens of thousands.
Yeah, New York Post.
Died of this horrible nuclear disaster.
Yeah, exactly. And it did.
Well, look at the way and here's the thing about it. The media plays this thing, so we don't have the benefits of nuclear power like the French do, and we could, but we don't because all the reactors are custom made and they're too expensive and it's a jip. But here's the thing that gets me about the anti-nuke propaganda. So Fukushima goes off, and you end up with lot of chit chat about the waste is headed our way. We're all going to get wiped out on the West Coast, or all the irradiated this and that.
Wait. Don't we have that guy with the Geiger counter on the beach?
The guy with the Geiger counter on the beach. And then we have people like Alex Jones, who seems to be on the right.
Yeah, hold on.
Right side.
Listen to this. This is from one of our clips from 2013. It's the Geiger counter on the beach.
Here I am. I'm over background. The alarm's going off. Here I am on the beach. There you go. That's sort of the levels we're dealing with here. And I'm standing straight up. This camera's at.
This was the kind of shit that was going on. Oh, we got it on the beach. It's in the tuna. It's in the sushi.
So you can't eat the fish. But the point I was making is you have the right wingers who should be pro-nuke selling iodine tablets.
Selling iodine, that's right.
As if we're all going to die because of this Fukushima. We're coming in, they'll be here next week.
It's a cloud. The cloud is coming over California.
And a cloud and all the rest of it. I mean, come on.
The dolphins are carrying nuclear plastic. All kinds of stuff like this. And now we have another hoax, another Green New Deal hoax. Very disappointing that the famous Sir David Attenborough is a part of this Our Planet.
Oh, yeah, he's co-opted completely.
Yeah, and it's really good. Well, first of all, the guy has such a seminal voice for documentaries. It's just pleasant to listen to him, and he instills trust. Netflix has a promo out for Our Planet. It's a documentary series narrated by the same David Attenborough, and it features a scene of walruses falling off of a cliff, bouncing. I don't know if you've seen this, bouncing on the rocks and then dying at the bottom in a bloody mess. And then, the next one jumps off and it falls backwards and it just dies on top of the other one. And these are big animals. And well, here's the scene from this from the documentary. You'll note that the people talking about what's happening and why this is happening is not David Attenborough. It's the camera guy, and it's, I guess, a producer, or I'm not sure what her credentials are, and she's crying. Here we go.
I don't understand. Why are they going up there? Like, literally to the top of the rockiest part of the cliff.
Once at the top of the 80-meter cliffs, they rest until it's time to return to the sea in search of food.
That's the last little section, isn't it? The really steep bit, and they all just, it's really steep, that bit.
One's going to go. There's one right on the edge.
And now it's falling off in slow motion, bashing its head against the rocks, blood spurting out, falling down.
There's probably 200 or 300 dead walrus on like a half-mile stretch of beach here. They're exhausted because they're having to swim 100 miles now to get to food, and then coming back here because it's the only place to sleep. They used to sleep on the ice, dive down, eat the food, sleep on the ice, easy. And now they're swimming 100 miles, coming to this place, climbing cliffs, and they're just exhausted and falling down and either being killed falling or just crushing each other because there's several thousand crammed onto little tiny bits of beaches.
This is the sad reality of climate change. They'd be on the ice right now if they could be, but there's no option but to come to land. And they're just a danger unto themselves. Really hard to watch and witness this. It's just so heartbreaking.
Oh, it's so horrible. This is the worst thing that climate change has done to anything or anyone. You see, after the polar bears didn't die off because of climate change, in fact,
their population increased substantially.
Now the walrus is the new polar bear. And they're using
sounds like it.
And they're using this to say because there's not enough ice, they are driven onto land, and there's too many of them, and then they fall off the rocks to their death. Unfortunately, nothing could be further from the truth. This is called a land haul, and And walruses do this periodically. They did it in the 1980s. When the population outstrips the food supply, they do this land haul maneuver, and they kill themselves in order to ensure there's enough food for the younger generation. And in fact, the walrus population is doing quite well. It's up from 100,000 to 300,000. But yet, because of global warming, they're throwing themselves off of the cliff. A total lie.
Yeah.
Shameful. But hey, you could be the Netflix of podcasting.
Next, I have the clip of these climate change. Now, I want you to just pay careful attention here. Climate change, big numbers off Democracy Now!
In climate news, an alarming new report published in the journal Nature Communications finds without immediate action to curb greenhouse gas emissions, melting Arctic permafrost could add as much as $70 trillion to the overall economic impact of climate change.
Wow.
70 trillion.
Nice.
From melting ice.
And whose numbers were those?
She never said. I couldn't find them. But I'm sure somebody came up with them. $70 trillion, that's a lot of money. But the $70 trillion, I think, what's our GNP is like?
I don't know.
1 or 2 trillion. I mean, it's like the whole world has to shut down to pay for this stuff. It's bull crap. It's just bull crap.
Yeah.
70 trillion.
There was
now I got to look up the GNP and see what it is.
There was an interesting research study published by the University of Chicago about the renewable portfolio standards, something I had not heard of before.
Okay, I'm sorry. Our GNP is 19.6 trillion. So this would be the entire production of the United States for more than 3 years, 3.5 years, to fix the problem of the melting ice. Anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, unless something else horrible is made up to go along with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shut it down.
Renewable portfolio standards, something that's been going on since the turn of the millennium. And individual states have these RPSs, which is the amount of renewable energy you have to have, and there's a sliding scale for it. Turns out there's 29 states that have these renewable portfolio standards, Texas being one of them, surprisingly. And so, as we know, and I think you see more energy companies advertising this fact these days. We played one a couple shows ago. When you have more renewable energy, you need more gas-fired energy. Or it could be nuclear, but these are the people that are the happiest. They're like, hey, we're all in. Shit, we'll build some windmills. No problem. And here's what the numbers break down to. Just to give you an idea of what you really need in actual plant capital or capacity to go to keep in stride with the renewables. And it's a very lengthy report. But the idea is renewables have a 30% capacity factor. So if you want to go to 50% renewable, you have to build 166% renewable capacity, which means you need to have 115% base load provided by fossil fuels, such as gas. So to get to the 50% renewable portfolio standard, you need 281% to assure 100% base load power. So fossil fuel companies are going to make out like bandits because of this. And that's the truth of your Green New Deal. So that we're talking almost a threefold increase. That's a lot of gas.
Yeah, it's too much.
And I put this research in the show notes. It's, as I said, it's like a 50-page document. But it's all from University of Chicago, so pretty reliable. And it just shows you that this is where we're headed. You're literally making the fossil fuel companies rich. And I'm not, hey, consider nuclear.
That's never done. That's why the thing is scamish.
Well, I think because of these numbers now, I think the nuclear industry is becoming interesting to investors. Wait a minute. If we need to have that kind of a baseline power load, then the $1 billion investment per nuke plant kind of looks okay over time. And I think you will see this change. It has to. I don't think we can even provide that much natural gas.
A lot of fracking going on.
Well, yeah. The whole country will sink because of the fracking, but we'll have renewable energy. I just thought that was a fascinating set of numbers. It's scary.
Well, let's go to Sri Lanka then and catch up with this.
Okay. Do you have any reports? I got some thoughts on it.
I got one from ITN, and then I have an ISO, which is part 2, 4-second clip of part 2 of this, which is standalone ISO. It just so happens to be the part 2. But report from Sri Lanka, this is independent television news.
The police trying to usher people away from the first of a series of controlled explosions they conducted across the capital today. A nervous public watching on as they dealt with another suspicious vehicle. Security is at its highest level here, even at the morgue, where relatives are still arriving to identify the dead. With the country's churches still in lockdown, details have started to emerge about those responsible for the Easter Sunday attacks. This house in a quiet residential area of Colombo was where the family of 2 brothers responsible for the hotel bombings lived. When police raided the property on Sunday, the wife of one of the men triggered a suicide vest. Senaka lives on the same street.
The woman killed herself, her 2 children, and 3 policemen.
Neighbour Mohammed knew the bomber's father and can't believe his family were responsible.
Almost everybody knows from this lane, he's a famous guy and he's a rich guy and he's a good guy too. He never thought this will happen from his house. It's a really big shock for everyone.
The government have confirmed all 9 suicide bombers were from well-off Sri Lankan families, and one of them studied in the UK. A worker at a copper factory owned by the Cinnamon Grand bomber told us they were shocked when the bomb squad turned up.
Looking, he's very, very good man.
Can I guess that's the ISO?
No, the ISO is what he has to say next.
Inside, Iblis. Iblis, understand?
Very bad.
Very bad.
You understand English what? Very bad.
Now, couple of things that have not been pointed out by anybody. And I want to hear your thoughts also, which I'm sure are more interesting than what I'm going to explain, which is that they showed a video of one of the bombers walking down through town and then going into one of the churches that blew up. And he clearly had a backpack on. And it appears as if the backpack was filled with explosives.
Uh-huh.
And in Western countries, and Sri Lanka is pretty much westernized, it's not weird to see people wandering around. And I've always felt this is a bad trend, wandering around with backpacks filled with stuff. They go to the store with their backpacks. I go to the store the other day, and there's people with backpacks on in a vegetable store, and and they turn around and the backpack hits you. And
yes,
and it's the same thing on the airline. The guy comes in with a huge backpack and he's waggling it off. And rolling, wheels were invented for a reason. But okay, you want to carry around a load, you're a Sherpa, you're going to walk around this back. But I think these guys have switched. And so when they said that this woman blew up a vest to kill herself.
Yes, I hear
I don't believe so. I believe it was a backpack. And I think that the future of these bombers is backpacks. Not vests. It's too hot. Nobody's going to be. Well, I mean, in the Middle East, the people do this because they wear black and it's 140 degrees out. But in other countries, like Sri Lanka being a good example, people are in short sleeves. They don't really have they're not going to be wearing a vest, but they will be carrying around backpacks. And I think this needs to be, I think the bombers have figured this out.
Well, David Hogg can sell some of his clear plastic backpacks.
Could be required by law.
Yeah, it could be. Well,
so you had some thoughts on this?
There's a number of things going on. And first of all, it's always disturbing to realize that the United States Navy started a huge exercise in Sri Lanka on the 19th of April, a multi-day exercise. So we had a lot of people there in the port. Just always interesting to note whenever you have that going on. I think that, well, it's obvious that this operation was not just some willy-nilly thing. It was organized quite well. We immediately had a boogeyman who we never heard of before, National Tawhid Jamaat. Immediately, right away, just like 9/11, we had, here's a passport. It's got to be these guys. And please recall that we had two clips from Fox News when the Notre Dame was burning, people saying, hey, wait a minute, there's something going on with churches and people, and they shut them down. Shut up, you can't talk about it. Not a typical Fox News move, who love conspiracy, certainly if it's anti-Islamic. I think that this interrupted the operation, and the last thing the people running this Sri Lanka operation wanted was people calling out or more hate being generated against Islamists in Europe versus where this took place. Two clips here just to give you some thoughts as a quote, former FBI agent on Fox News. I think it's with Shep Smith, actually. And this is the intelligence community's line, and I know that because I got an email from Pachenik, and fully recognizing he's my handler to a degree. His email said, you should do a show about how Christians have been persecuted all around, the world. I've been tracking this forever. He's never told me to do a show about anything. He's never even listened to the show, as far as I know. Seriously, he keeps saying, how's your radio show? Okay, fine. It's great. It's a great radio show. So that to me said something. You want to be pushing the anti-Christian meme? I'm not so sure. Let's listen to the FBI guy first, who's read in on the topic.
And retired FBI Special Agent Bobby Chacon. Bobby, thank you for being here this morning. Tough news, but not...
It's not Shep, obviously.
For someone like you, this is not something new. We've seen Muslim radical terrorist groups attacking Christians around the globe. What does this attack tell you?
Well, it's an outreach, right? So we've had relative stability in Sri Lanka for at least the 10 years since their civil war ended. So it tells me that this radical ideology is spreading. The Indian subcontinent now being attacked. And so, it's another sign that the Middle East is not the sole source of these attacks, and that we'll see more of these attacks in places where we've seen relative stability.
Okay, and how do they...
Yeah, boy.
Oh, yeah, you can wait for it. So they're setting something up.
Yeah, this group, NJT, you're right. There hasn't been...
Oh, we even have an acronym for them now, NJT. It used to...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is very quick, these things, John. Never heard of these NJT guys. Pop, there they are on the scene, pushed by everybody.
Can I stop you for a second and mention one thing, because there was a lot of battling going on. We heard about all the terrorism going on in Sri Lanka, but we have to always remember that during that era, which just ended 10 years ago, as the guy pointed out.
Civil War.
It wasn't a civil war as much as it was terrorism, but between two opposing forces.
But it was Buddhists
and Hindus.
Yes.
And there was no Muslim component, but now all of a sudden there is.
In fact, you're jumping the gun a little bit, but you're correct. The Muslim population is very small, under 10% in Sri Lanka. Christian population, about 7%. The majority are Buddhists. If you're going to send a message to somebody, which this is, and I'll get to that, you don't, especially in light of it's historians call it civil war, everything I've read, but it was Hindus against Buddhists, And in fact, you had radical Buddhists. So we don't want to spark off something internally. We got to blow somebody up. Well, we're not going to blow up Muslims. Let's blow up some Christians. And, by the way, there were hotels, not necessarily. There were 3 hotels, 3 churches. So not necessarily all places of worship. But you want to avoid the Hindus or the Buddhists because that could set off some other stuff when you're just doing this to send a very clear message.
Yeah, this group, NJT, you're right. There hasn't been radical Islamic terrorism in Sri Lanka, but their aim is to spread the global Islamist movement to that country. So suicide bombings, those are the types of things we saw from Al-Qaeda and ISIS. I mean, is this part of that same strand still alive?
Sure, and make no mistake, while they're identifying this local group as the one that carried it out, the planning and the support that was needed to carry out an attack like this has undoubtedly been supported by significant assistance from outside of Sri Lanka. I would not be surprised if the investigation determines that there was significant assistance coming from groups outside that country to support an operation like this. It was very coordinated, very planned. This small local group inside Sri Lanka, while it could have carried out an attack like this, I doubt that they did so without material support from outside that country. So we have to look at ISIS, we have to look at Al-Qaeda, we have to look at some of the other international groups that are able to send that kind of support, both financial, training, bomb making equipment, bomb makers, and those kind of things. I would imagine they're going to find a lot of that support came from outside Sri Lanka.
He makes it clear. Outside. Okay,
yeah,
outside.
Couldn't have said it many more times before it became obvious.
Remember that both Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama tweeted about Easter worshipers? All people who I believe, and I know this sounds crackpotty, but I believe they all knew something was coming. They didn't know exactly what it was, but they knew something was coming. It was a big message to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has had an ongoing dispute with India. India does not want them in bed with China as part of One Belt, One Road. What has China just done? They have poured hundreds of billions of dollars into the port, the very port where the U.S. Navy was during this attack, doing an exercise. I believe, and you look at the political things have gone on with an appointment of an interior minister who was then kicked out because India didn't want it because that guy was friendly to China. This was India, with help from, I think, us, sending a message saying, screw you, you have to get China out of there. We can't. It's very important. Again, it's in the shipping lane. Look on the map where Sri Lanka is.
Yeah, it's part of the choke points.
The Chinese they've militarized parts of this port, part of this base. So we're there to make sure they don't go crazy and do something while this operation takes place. It can't be Buddhists or Hindi. It has to be, well, we're not going to do Muslims, so might as well do the Christians in a couple of hotels. And I think people fucking knew about it. That's why they were trying to keep it calm. We don't want this huge thing. We only want it focused on this one little group in Sri Lanka. This group, by the way, which trained apparently in the same area where the Tamil Tigers trained. And I'm pretty sure we all know who trained the Tamil Tigers because that was the U.S. Same as ISIS. This is really unbelievable.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. I think we had a lot to do with it.
I wouldn't be surprised. I have no evidence of that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Now, all we have is parallels to past events, and when you have something that happens like this, and you immediately point towards a small
very
group,
sketchy.
Mm-hmm.
And then this new group, and they're named instantly. I mean, all the earmarks of a hoax. And here's not a hoax that didn't happen, because nowadays they don't care if they kill anybody.
So I replied to Pechenik's email, and I said, "Yeah, that's persecution happens, but I can't." And I laid it out. I can't get past the fact of this Chinese deal. The Indians very vocal. No, not just us. I have a whole article here about William Avery saying India must kick China out of Sri Lanka. I mean, this is not something that just happened. And I laid out this idea to him. He never replied to it. I sent him another email. He replies to that almost 3 minutes later. So, I think in his older age, he's not getting too good at the handling, because the idea is, keep everyone focused on Christians. And of course it was Christians. Big problem.
And there's a lot of good. Well, that's what the UN sex slave resolution was about, Christians, which just went through. I have a clip here if you want to play that.
Yeah, hold on. I didn't know anything about this.
The United Nations Security Council passed a resolution Tuesday aimed at ending rape as a weapon of war after the U.S. used a veto threat to strip the measure of any mention of sexual and reproductive health. The Trump administration's successful move to water down the measure over its opposition to abortion was blasted by France's UN ambassador, who said, quote, "It's intolerable and incomprehensible that the Security Council is incapable of acknowledging that women and girls who suffered from sexual violence and conflict and who obviously didn't choose to become pregnant should have the right to terminate their pregnancy," unquote. The resolution was championed by Nobel Peace Laureate Nadia Murad, a Yazidi Kurdish human rights activist from Iraq. She was kidnapped by the Islamic State, repeatedly raped as she was held as a sex slave for almost 3 months.
Wow, where did this take place?
This what? There's sex slave?
Sex slave, yeah.
No, they're referring to the that whole ISIS incidents where they grabbed all the Yazidi Christian women.
Yes.
It's a Christian angle again. This is the Christians from Yazidi.
I also saw Amal Clooney was at the UN talking about this.
Yeah, and so everyone's talking about it, but they're all there to trash Trump because apparently the administration doesn't want this to be just some sort of a government-funded abortion operation. That's the way they see it. And then I have the other clip I have is a Sri Lankan's official apologizes, and there's some information in here when you say this was these guys knew this was coming. It might be kind of hinted in this clip.
Sri Lankan officials apologized Monday for failing to respond to multiple tip-offs ahead of Sunday's 8 attacks. A confidential memo circulated among Sri Lankan security agencies gave the names, addresses, and phone numbers of some of the suspects. It's not clear why authorities failed to act on the warnings. One surveillance video showed a suspect wearing a backpack casually strolling towards St. Sebastian Church north of Colombo minutes before a bomb ripped through a crowd of Easter Sunday worshippers, killing more than 100 of them. On Tuesday, the self-proclaimed Islamic State claimed responsibility for the bombings. The group circulated a video purporting to show 8 members of a Sri Lankan cell pledging allegiance to the group.
Now, I have to say that generally speaking, when the ISIS people said that they did something, it's usually something they did, like the Vegas attack, for example.
Right.
Which we've had is nothing but mess. But I'm wondering if we have, because ISIS has been pretty much wiped out of Syria. Their headquarters are gone. We don't even know who's running the place. So how are you going to get an official pronouncement from them unless the official pronouncers are now co-opted? It could be our military intelligence or CIA saying these things on behalf of ISIS.
We kind of know who ISIS is and who trained them in Jordan and who gave them weapons in Syria. We kind of know them.
Yeah, well, that's why we also gave them like a whole cache of weaponry.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was trained by our group. But
thanks, Obama.
Pretty much. Thanks.
I didn't notice time just flew by, so it is high time for me to thank you for your courage and say in the morning to you, the man who always puts the C in crackpot, John C. Dvorak.
In the morning to Mr. Adam Curry. Also in the morning to all the ships at sea, feet on the ground, subs in the water, feet in the air, dames out there, knights and dames and knights out there. Yeah.
In the morning to everybody in the troll room. Hello, trolls. NoAgendaStream.com is where you can always drop by during the live show, chat along, troll me, troll everybody else, maybe be helpful, crack jokes, one-liners, work on your comedy routine. And it's a place you can always hang out 24/7. The stream is always going with tons of great shows. NoAgendaStream.com. Also in the morning, too, there he is again, Darren O'Neill, bringing us the Easter artwork for episode 1131. The title of that was Chud, C-H-U-D. A classic. We love it. You got Easter eggs with all of our little No Agenda. That's true. And Sure and Glitch and Crackpot and Earth Day and ITM and Lone Wolf. Woof. 420 egg. Yeah. It was a perfect piece. We appreciated that. And Darren was so smart. He gave us two versions. One had chud on an egg, and he did one without chud, thinking that we might pick that as the title. And how smart he is. NoAgendaArtGenerator.com. Thank you, Darren. That's it's such a great contribution to the show. It also, now, when you're voting for the No Agenda podcast over that BBC Podcast Awards, it helps because you'll see the most recent artwork. But you won't be able
to figure out which one to vote for. They have too many icons crop up.
Well, for people who listen to the show, they'll recognize our current artwork. That did show up for me. Our current artwork, the eggs. So that's the one you want to hit, or the one for this show, whatever it is.
Well, we got screwed.
Of course we get screwed.
All right. Well, let's thank a few people who. Now, who was the? Now the show that we're talking about that had the. What was the artwork that Darren did?
I'm not understanding your question.
On Chud?
Yeah. Oh, he did the same piece of art, only he put chud on one of the eggs, and then he did a version without chud.
That wasn't him. That was Uncle Cave Bear.
Are you sure? Am I giving the wrong person credit here?
Yeah, it's Uncle Cave Bear. He came. Darren O'Neill's piece was not. It was just a no agenda on the egg.
Oh, then I gave the wrong person credit. Oh, I'm sorry, Uncle Cave Bear. Well, good catch, John. Huh. Okay, I'll fix that.
Yeah.
Well, after that whole, I'm glad there's two of us. This is good news.
News bomb. News bomb.
Yes, Archduke, or he's actually Grand Duke, I believe. Maybe not. In Virginia Beach, Nussbaum. He says, lifelong friend,
shipmate,
and brother from the Armed Forces MC passed last night.
Oh.
All is not well. NK, and J.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Well, he lost a friend. Anyway, he came in with $333.33, and we'll give him a moment of silence. Kendra Hartzell in Riverside, California, came with the same amount, and she actually wrote in an email, which I didn't catch to begin with, but I caught it now. Dear John and Adam, just want to say thank you for the media deconstruction. Your show provides so much value. Thanks to my favorite son. He knows who he is, for introducing me to the best podcast in the universe.
Nice.
NJNK.
All right. Thank you very much, Kendra.
Sweet, straight up note. Easy. Those are our two executive producers. We go down to John Kresick, $222.22. We don't have a lot of people today. For show 1132 should be Thursday. Please accept this donation from two proud parents on behalf of our son, Andrew Kresick. He also is celebrating his 18th birthday this week. Andrew is graduating from high school.
Yes.
He already understands the formula and is mentally prepped for college. The show is a great product. Can you play Two to the Head, Goat Scream, and can you see that juice?
So I wonder what school he's going to. If he's going to be a no-agenda prepped college university student, that should be interesting.
Yeah.
And he needs to tell us how everything is going. Yes, and you're on the list. Fantastic.
Oh, my gosh. Can you see that juice?
You've got karma.
We have James Martin at $200. He says, I was one of the attendees at the Portland meetup on Saturday. Had a great time meeting everyone. Hope to see you all in the future. Also, I used to listen to the show sped up with the silences taken out. That's a double whammy.
Uh-huh.
But now I like it, the more natural sound of the original audio, as it gives me some mental breaks, especially when at work, which is where I listen most of the time. And finally, meetup.com does suck. NJNK.
Yes.
That's why we do what you do in technology. If you don't like what's out there, make one of your own.
I will say,
how hard is it to code this stuff?
I was looking for a particular segment on an old show, and I went to noagendaplayer.com, which is completely new. Have you seen this thing recently?
No, I have not.
Noagendaplayer.com it's beautiful. And the producer who's done this, because we don't maintain or build any of these sites. I don't think we don't even have the domain name. Noagendaplayer.com. He could sell this. He could open this up to any podcast. It's so fantastic. And now you have the ability to annotate. So you can come in and you can say, like SoundCloud, you say, here, I want to put a little note here. Here's where this topic of discussion started. And it was so helpful. It's just fantastic. Just a little plug.
It's a good plug.
Well, this is what the Value for Value Network is.
Yeah, I don't mind you plugging the thing. It sounds terrific.
Yeah, we have thousands of producers, and we have no advertising. And yet, here we are.
And we haven't unionized yet, although I'm thinking about it.
Well, I'm going to bust your union. I'm your scab.
You're going to scab me out.
I'm going to scab you out and do the Adam Agenda podcast.
Adam Agenda. John Agenda.
Yeah.
Dame G
Money.
dollar
G
sign.
Money. Dame G Money.
G Money.
Mm-hmm.
$200. Hey, guys. What's the episode where you all tell us about how the show production works? 200 point something. Whatever the highest number, 200.8, I think, or 200.6. And how producers can contribute with ISOs. I don't know if we ever did a show about that. And such. Also, my friend Whitesell is a douchebag.
Oh, hold on.
Douchebag. Call her out. We just did. Whitesell, you love the show. Give some of that value for value love. Donating feels good. Love you. Mean it. Dame G Money.
Well, okay. Since we have no more executive or associate executive producers, I'll take a moment to explain. Once again, this is the value for value model. We don't have an audience of listeners. We have a network of producers. Many producers just sit home, scratch their crotch, and say, great show. Sometimes they go out and they help propagate the formula called hitting people in the mouth. Other people use their talents or their knowledge. So particular stories you can send in. Just AdamMcCurry.com. I can say john@dvorak.org. Does that work?
Yeah, it tends to.
Yeah. Or squeakychair@dvorak.org.
No, I don't have that set up. Although the chair does want its own email address.
And you can, we have many different places where you can contribute, just annotating the show on noagendaplayer.com or going to, there's also, I found the No Agenda, like one big PDF file. The hell was that again? Damn it. Keep forgetting to promote that one. It's like, it's a topic list of every show we've done. It's a huge PDF.
Really?
Yeah. God damn it.
What show does it end at?
The most recent one.
Which one did it start at?
I didn't look, but it was such a huge file. Now I forgot where you find. I'll put it in the show notes. I'll find a link to it.
I like to find it myself.
Yeah, you're gonna have to find it. I tweeted a link to it the other day.
Oh, I missed that.
So it's out there. Anyway, so people do that, or the art generator where artists upload their art. These are all producers, and you'll find that people get out of the network what they put into it. Sometimes it's just accolades from your colleagues. Sometimes in art, it's just an exercise. But I know people who've never done a mix or a jingle in their life, and they've learned how to do it by sending stuff into the show. And some of it is just so bad, it's so funny, we love to play it. And then all of a sudden, these people turn into really good producers in that regard. Clips, just email it. If it's over 10 megabytes, please use WeTransfer or something like that, because it'll just get bounced back by my email server. And then one last tip. If you have something to share, either on Twitter or on email, it is not a good idea. You have to choose who you're going to send it to. Send it to John or send it to Adam. If you send it to both of us, what often happens is neither of us do anything with it. And that's the same with tweets. If you send something, a link to something, just give me the context. Where's it from? Who's talking? Just a file that shows up with, oh, this is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. That. And then we have luckily, a portion of our producers who function like Hollywood does, where they finance the work. It keeps Adam and John alive. And that is how you get an executive producer.
Well, it keeps us from doing too many other things. That's the key.
That is indeed the key. You're right. I mean, I tried for a little bit trying to do some crypto ICO coin scam. That didn't work. But we got some fun free shows out of the Netherlands for it. So I didn't pay to go over there. But anyway.
Well, that's good.
Anyway, yes, that's you're right. And I think the less we do to make ends meet and just keep on this show.
That's our attitude.
Well, yeah.
How do you make ends meet? We do very little.
I mean, I've really given up on becoming a millionaire again. It's like, nah, I don't think I got any more ideas in me. I don't think I got any. I'm too tired. I want to go pitch stuff. I don't want to do anything corporate. I've completely corrupted myself. I'm patently unhireable.
Well, it's nice not to, it's nice to be able to do the kind of
one thing
digging we do without having to worry about that, because people have no idea how hard it is to bring some of these topics up in a commercial environment. It's not even possible.
No, you can't do it. You can't do it.
They will not be accepted. Let you talk about any of this stuff.
Won't be accepted. You're exactly right.
So that's the deal, and that's why this podcast is a real podcast, unlike the phony podcast.
Unlike any phony baloney stuff. This is the real deal, ladies and gentlemen, and we want to thank these executive producers and associate executive producers of episode 1132. It's your show. You get to take that credit. You get to put it anywhere it works for you, where credits are recognized, and they are quite valuable. And we need support. More than this, hopefully, for our next program, which will be on Sunday. Visit our donation page at
Dvorak.org/NA.
Whether you use it or not, at least you have a better idea of what the real insurance policy was.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
Hey everyone, today...
Get more Zuck in there. Oh, well.
Did you notice that Zuckerberg starts hi everyone exactly the same way Scott Adams does?
Yeah, a little bit, I guess.
And that's where he got it from. I think he listened to Adams say, "Oh, that's how you do it." Even though Scott Adams doesn't even do a podcast,
it's a Periscope. No, that's not it. He also puts an audio version out on an RSS feed. Yeah. So
I thought Zuckerberg was derivative.
No, but I'm saying that Scott Adams does it on RSS feed.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he's a podcaster then.
Yeah, we'll give him that. We'll give him podcast.
Maybe he doesn't want it. Maybe he thinks it's a humiliation.
Can you hold on 1 second?
Yeah. Let's see what we got here, because we have not heard from my recorder for a while.
Okay. Let me explain what happened. Sorry about that. We have moved. And with a move come all kinds of small issues, such as the dishwasher leaks, the oven doesn't work, the washing machine still hasn't showed up. We've had no washing machine for almost 10 days. There's a lot of things that don't work, and I had to do I'm still getting no mail, have no mailbox, none, no mail. I don't exist. So the washing machine is coming today.
Yeah.
And I have someone who will be waiting for it when it arrives. It wasn't going to come until May 24th. So I'm very, very antsy to grab this now that it's coming. I was able to get one out of a different warehouse. But if you don't answer the call when they call you 30 minutes before delivery, then they will not deliver. So that's what that was. I'm sorry. And we're back, everybody. Machine? Yeah, it's the washing machine. Thank goodness.
Was it the washing machine calling?
Yes. Well, not the washing machine itself.
Well, nowadays with the smart AI washing machines, they can call.
I have taken out everything. There's no more. Nothing is wireless here. Nothing is connected. I have Honeywell thermostats that just
work.
The
Honeywell thermostat. It's a round one, right?
No, it is the electric one, the electronic one, but it's not. It has no Wi-Fi capability. I do not have a fridge with a Wi-Fi, although every single one has the option Every single thing these days has a Wi-Fi option. No, I didn't do the hue lights, everything. Screw it. Done with it. I got manual dimmers. You got to get up and walk to the wall and dim it.
Oh, no.
Yes, exactly. Now, we want less signals in the house. This is a sanctuary, except for the studio, where I have so many noises I have to get a different microphone because of the RF flying around this place.
Anyway, you were going on about something.
No, I interrupted
Okay.
you. You were going on about something.
I don't remember. Well, I do have some I got some median clips. There's some stuff that I got the Klobuchar doing the Jeb Bush bit.
Yeah. Okay, where is it?
It's at the Klobuchar doing a Jeb Bush with a K.
Got it.
I am someone that runs in a purple state. Every single time I have run, I have won every single congressional district in my state, including Michelle Bachmann's. Okay? It's when you guys are supposed to cheer. Okay?
It's so lame.
Please clap.
Was it on the prompter then? But that was my first question. Was she reading it from prompter?
I don't think so.
Because these town halls are interesting, where they're sitting down on kind of stool-like chairs, and then the question is asked, and then the candidate always gets up and starts answering the question to the crowd. It's a very unnatural format and kind of goofy, to be honest. And now I'm just thinking perhaps that's, you got to get up to see the prompter.
That's possible. The other thing is like, if they're going to make these things so rigged and so scripted, put an applause sign up. People, when it turns on, people will gladly applaud. We need a sign. Have her finger on the button.
We need the applause sign. Exactly.
The applause sign. You get a guy, the warm-up guy comes in, gets the crowd all jacked up. He's jumping up and down, and then he will direct the audience to pay attention to the applause sign, and when you see it clap, it'll make the show that much better. So
California has been in the news, certainly for San Francisco and Los Angeles, for the pooping on the streets, for the needles found everywhere. There's now there's a needle map in addition to the poop map. I think there's an app for it as well. San Francisco, on the side, they hand out 4.5 million needles each year to drug addicts. And because Starbucks did what they did, and anyone has a human right to be in a Starbucks, no matter what your situation is. Now they are installing needle disposal boxes in the Starbucks bathrooms. And it seems that this type of decriminalization that we've seen in... What was the current metric in California for crimes that are no longer... I think they're called crimes of need.
I don't know what they're called, but anything under $1,000
is no longer looked into. It's no
they
longer...
don't care.
Right.
The police don't care. You get your car, somebody comes by and cracks the windshield. It's going to cost you or your insurance company, I don't know how many hundreds of dollars to fix, but more than 10 cents. And your time.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Well,
wait, I got the guy on videotape. I got that. Here he is. We don't care.
This is rolling out now in Dallas.
When it comes to rolling out his new policy for justice reform in Dallas County, DA John Creuzot makes no apologies.
We have an overcriminalization of America, and it starts with poor people and people of color. And we know that. Everybody knows it. Everybody says we're going to do something about it, but nobody ever does anything about it, and so that's why I'm acting.
Council members listened as the DA outlined his plans to eliminate prosecution of certain low-level crimes, including marijuana offenses and theft of personal items worth less than $750, unless the theft was for financial gain.
My concern is it's going to have the hardest impact on these low-income, high-crime areas.
Councilmember Sandy Grayson expressed concern over the DA's policy to not prosecute thefts for crimes of need.
Because I think we're not really considering the business owner in this. What if 6 people come in one day and take diapers? 6 different people. how does he recover that loss?
Another concern, the DA's plan to cut back on prosecuting crimes of trespassing and panhandling.
That is killing Pleasant Grove, killing us.
Councilmember Kevin Felder says he believes the DA is on the right track.
I support what you're doing because Dallas has one of the highest concentrations of poverty in the nation.
So it is, they said it there, the crimes of need. That is the term that I'm...
Well, it doesn't, I mean, anyone who's stealing a $700 item for whatever reason, they need the money.
Yes, crime of need.
Well, then all crimes are crimes of need.
Well, this is special cases, John. It's special. It's under $700 crime of need. Diapers.
So what they're going to do is they're going to let the DA that initiated this, and it's the DA in Seattle who initiated a similar program up north. It's the DAs around here that are initiating this. Kamala Harris is a good example of one of the San Francisco DAs who push this sort of thing.
You bet.
And so what you end up with is just rampant crime. $700 is not a low. Who gives the idea? Who has this idea that $750 is meaningless?
Elites with a lot of dough?
Elites with a lot of dough is exactly right. Because, I mean, if you get a speeding ticket and it's going to cost you $200, you consider that a lot of money. Why don't they just drop that while they're at it? It's just ridiculous that they're so cavalier that they think $750 means nothing to anybody.
I'm reliably informed that this particular issue, and perhaps even the moniker crimes of need, will be used incessantly in the 2020 election.
Well, they're going to lose incessantly then.
I don't know. There's a lot of people who might commit crimes of need or could be thinking about it. For instance, NPR just did a story about today's millennial who owns nothing and lives nowhere. It's a part of the gig economy with a native ad.
Stephen T. Johnson works in social media advertising, and he spends most of his days using things he does not own.
I took an Uber to Equinox to shower before we met, and then went to Podshare. And then came to WeWork.
Stephen took a ride share to get to the gym he uses. He does not own a car. At the gym, he rents a locker. He uses the gym's laundry service because he does not own a washing machine. He doesn't even have an apartment, actually.
Exactly.
We were going to meet at Podshare, this co-living space where Stephen rents a bed. Just a bed in a big open room with about a dozen other people, but it was too loud. So we went to his co-working space, a place called WeWork, where Stephen rents a desk. WeWork is also an NPR sponsor.
Well, how coincidental you have that in the story. Let's hear more.
Stephen owns so little, he can carry most of his stuff in his hands.
I actually gave up my backpack that was the smallest I got down to, and I gave that up 2 months ago.
Stephen also only owns 2 outfits.
See, even just having a backpack will become suspicious, John, so I think you're right about that.
Well, 2 of the same outfit.
Under Armour brandless sport shoes, Lululemon pants, Lululemon socks, Lululemon shirt, Lululemon underwear.
Stephen is part of a newish group of young people, kind of well off, but also, in a way, homeless. Does Stephen represent a fundamental shift in American capitalism as we know it?
The fact is that we can't afford to sort of hoard anymore.
That's Skylar Wang. He's a PhD student at UC Berkeley. He studies the sociology of the sharing economy. And he thinks one of the biggest factors in this economic shift is younger people buying fewer houses and choosing to live in dense urban areas and rent smaller places. Part of this is houses just being more expensive than they were for our parents. But when you're more okay with renting the place you live in, it's maybe a lot easier to accept a life where you rent and share a whole lot more. Wang does point out, even if young people own less, they still have a lot of stuff that isn't tangible.
I talked to a lot of minimalists. They're the type of people who love to couch surf, right? They own like 30 things. But then the interesting thing is that they hoard digitally.
They hoard digitally.
They have tons of photographs. They have thousands and thousands of Instagram posts.
It's still an economy of stuff. It's just different stuff. It's experiences.
I'm speechless.
Well, there's a couple of things in there that don't surprise me, especially this idea of experiences.
Yeah,
this is being studied to an extreme now, and it seems that the millennials, at least one group of them, and I believe it's the older ones, have more. They have more love of having an quote unquote experience. This is why we've noticed this trend with the single batch, small batch, and all these things. You buy a product that's
right. It has to have a story, and it has to be an experience just to be in possession of it. Yes, correct.
No story, no sale.
Right.
Hey, that's a good one. No story, no sale.
No sale. Best price.
No story, no sale. And so you end up with this. So everything is kind of centered around this. And I watched this, and it's like, it's flabbergasting, to be honest about it. They will make sacrifice for the experience. I'm still contemplating it, but that piece that you ran tells a lot of this story.
Well, you also would be one of the front runners of talking about how inexpensive disk space has become. So for them to be collecting experiences, documenting said experiences, and hoarding them is incredibly sad that they're storing this on Instagram. Even though I believe that the likes and the comments are all part of the experience, and that can go away, that can get deleted, you can get kicked off, anything can happen. And just imagine if that is truly your experiential life, and that is very important to you, and you have no possessions as a minimalist, but you have your possessions are the documentation of your experiences, and it gets taken away. I think people will off themselves.
Well, I never thought they did mention that here being an old timer, computer hobbyist type.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
I want to say when he was talking about his collections, the first thing that came to my mind, and this is why I thought it was interesting what you just said, as he said this, he said, I have all these photos, I have a collection of photos, and I have all my Instagram posts. Right. And the first thing that went right through my brain was, he's somehow backed up Instagram. He has it on a big hard disk.
Oh, no way. No way.
Well, and now that you mention it, you're right. There's no way. And I will say this, and you've seen this happen over the last 20 or 30 years. There's all these systems that come up, and people, I can store my whole photo collection. I can store the whole thing in full size. And they put instead of having it backed up on a cheap hard disk that you can buy at Costco that has terabytes and terabytes of storage. No. You store it all on some online.
Hey, and here's a crazy idea. Here's a crazy thought that I've advocated for many times. Print some out. You will lose your photos. I've been saving photos all my life, and I know that at least one or two of my drives will never fire up again. You need to print some stuff out. Print it out. You can send it to CVS and go buy on your way home from your shitty job. And I think interactive advertising, the guy's probably making $37,000 a year because he has to compete against the H-2B, H-2B visa workers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Now, what you just said, I think, is a great idea, and I will mention Costco and other places. You could put 2 or 3 quote unquote rolls on a small thumb drive and take it to Costco, and they'll print these things out inexpensively, about the same you'd have to pay for supplies to do it yourself, fairly inexpensively, and you will have these backups. And they actually, the gear that the big print guys have is a little better than what you generally have, and it's also, it tunes the photos a little bit.
There's going to be an entire generation of children who get old and die, and there's going to be nothing left. I really enjoy having some of my mom's crazy shit, some letters and some photos. Sure. I like the photos. I like photos of my daughter.
Black and white photos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I've saved all of the original videotapes of Christina, 2nd birthday, 3rd birthday. There's some fun stuff on it.
Start rolling them out.
Yeah, it's VHS. Then I also have VHS-C. I have beta. No, what's the DV video? Now, I saved the actual cameras so I can play it back.
Yeah, this is a problem.
But it's going. Yeah, there's services who will do it, and I understand the storage is going to be a problem because oh my God, now you besides your $200 Lululemon pants, you also have to carry around some like a photo album, and you have no backpack for it.
This is not going to work. This is not going to work for these guys.
Maybe. Hey, exit strategy.
I just saw a giant truck go by, giant truck with a big blue sign that said Prime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazon.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway, they're into this. The way they're doing it is what they're into, and I think they're going to be sorely disappointed.
Yeah, this is just a warning. Yeah, I agree.
Every which way.
It's just hey, take it from your Uncle Adam and Uncle John. You might want to have some memories later on, and it's going to go away if you trust it to Instagram. Just take a couple, make a selection. We need to have the millennialvault.com or something like this, where you just send off a couple pictures, we print them, we store them for you, which of course we don't do because we're really an on-demand printing system, you see. So we'll say, we're going to print these for you, and we'll keep them safe for you. And then when you go pick them up, which 90% will never do, then here they are. We print them off real quick. So they're also well preserved. They're kept perfectly well. And, obviously we won't lose the data. It's another exit strategy.
And mac and cheese is my idea of a perfect birthday cake.
That's an actual commercial. Same people.
Tell me if you can spot the magic number in this African flooding clip that nobody's talking about.
In South Africa, at least 33 people are dead in the eastern province of KwaZulu-Natal after floods and mudslides crush homes around the city of Durban. Some parts of South Africa have received over 9 inches of rain since Monday, more than 3 times the average monthly total for all of April.
33, that's a magic number. It's the magic number.
She then goes on a generic rant about climate change, of course.
Of course.
Now, I've said this before, I like Democracy Now! Because it will pick up stories that the mainstream is just not going to touch.
Oh, the mainstream is unwatchable in America.
It's pretty bad.
In America, it's unwatchable.
So I've got a couple here that are kind of, I didn't know that any of this was going on. But this is the one that got my attention. This is the Japanese eugenics program.
In a remarkable move, the government of Japan...
Oh, wait a minute. Stop. I hate to say this. I do listen to Democracy Now! For a reason.
Yeah.
But this was actually on PBS.
Okay.
In a remarkable...
Great lead-ins.
All right. And here we go again.
In a remarkable move, the government of Japan has formally apologized today to an estimated 25,000 people who were forcibly sterilized from 1948 to 1996. It was done under a eugenics law designed to, quote, prevent the birth of poor quality descendants. Many, but not all of those sterilized had disabilities. Now the victims will be eligible for some compensation of $28,600 apiece.
How much? 2,800?
How 2,800? 28,000.
28,000. Oh, okay. Wow. Not worth it.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. Nobody's talking about that. But back to my thesis about the way Democracy Now! Does play stories that you won't get elsewhere. I have not heard this story anywhere, which is the SEAL team leader busted as a war criminal?
The New York Times is reporting that Navy SEALs who witnessed their platoon chief commit war crimes in Iraq were encouraged not to speak out and told they could lose their jobs for reporting him at a private meeting with a superior officer last year. According to a confidential Navy criminal investigation obtained by the Times, the commandos said they saw Special Operations Chief Edward Gallagher stab and kill an unarmed teenage captive, shoot shoot to death a young girl and old man and fire indiscriminately into crowds of civilians. But what the men on Gallagher's team called a private meeting with their troop commander and demanded an investigation, they were told to stay quiet on the matter, and no action was taken. The group of 7 SEALs eventually were able to force an investigation, and Chief Edward Gallagher was arrested in September on more than a dozen charges, including premeditated murder and attempted murder. If convicted, he could face life in prison. His trial begins on May 28th.
Wow, you're right. No one talked about that one. No one.
No one. Shh. Don't talk about that one.
Well, I guess it's not en vogue. Hey, we got an operation going on coming up somewhere in Sri Lanka, so shut up with all this news. We've got to focus.
Focus, people. Stand down.
I need to clarify some stuff. I did one of my typical, this is a fine, outstanding citizen about Nipsey Hussle. The rapper / community activist that loved by many who feel it was actually not the Nokia, it was the Staples Center. They built the Staples Center for him. And my point usually is, okay, you can glorify this guy, but he also did fuck Donald Trump in 2016 with YG, and it was pretty clear. It was like upstanding citizen, but was that really necessary? I got a lot of pushback. And I understand people are fans of the music. I really have no problem with the music. I thought Fuck Donald Trump was a nice sing-along ditty. I was just making a point. But as I looked deeper into Nipsey Hussle, I was able to push back after several long email chains with multiple people who are fans, have a lot more understanding of gang culture than I do. Even the YG Nipsey Hussle F Donald Trump video was actually the Crips and Bloods together in the same video. He was trying to move himself away from the gangs for sure. But here's what I heard from a lot of different people, and they were very angry. He did all this great stuff for his community. He bought the entire strip mall that his clothing store is in, and he's doing all this community stuff, and he bought a Fat Burger, and he's been giving money to people, and he gave money to the school, and there's a Vector 90 where you can rent a desk, and there'll be a STEM center, and he's really, really a good guy. So let's run these down for a second, because once I did this, I figured out why he did the F Donald Trump video. It was very interesting. So first of all, this marathon clothing that is in an area of the hood, I would say, they sell $100 beanie caps and $200 T-shirts. So I don't know how great this is for the hood, but that's a pretty high price. He actually did not buy the strip mall. He is a member of a consortium run by a Los Angeles real estate developer named Dave Gross. Dave Gross and Nipsey Hussle, but also I think Jay-Z is in there, DJ Khaled. This is a very typical type of operation where you get a couple of celebrities and you're going to build things. So they bought the strip mall. I don't think Nipsey put any money into it. They bought the strip mall, and guess what they're going to do? They're going to tear it down, build residential units with Marathon as the anchor tenant for retail. I wonder if that will be affordable housing. He did not own the Fat Burger. Early days, he made T-shirts for the Fat Burger staff to wear. This same Dave Gross consortium is working on buying the Viceroy Hotel, changing that entire concept. The school money was Nipsey, again, being a front man for Puma, who donated the money. He's also just a front man for Vector 90, which is, as we know, like WeWork. It's basically a money-making operation where you rent a desk by the hour or a cubicle by the day. This STEM center has still not opened as far as I know. But this guy really came on my radar when I was in the Netherlands working on my own crypto coin ICO scam. as Nipsey Hussle at the same time was in the Netherlands, and he was signing up, as he says, well, yes, we've invested in this follow coin, and no, he was doing exactly what I was doing, being a figurehead for an ICO, for a crypto coin. Because what is this guy? He is a front man for other people's projects. And then all of a sudden I understood. The Fuck Donald Trump song is self-hate. He's exactly the same as Trump. He puts his name on real estate developments. Well, he put his name on real estate developments.
Yeah. And Trump sells his name more and he does stuff.
And then there's this conspiracy theory about Dr. CB who had cured AIDS and had different cures for diabetes. And this guy was killed by Big Pharma. And before Nipsey Hussle was shot, he was, I'm going to do a documentary because a lot of his supplements are really special. He was in the supplement game.
Zounds. The supplement game.
Yeah, like
game. That's the
boner pills. Yeah,
the pill man.
Yes. So, and I hate because people are fans and they love him, but I do want to say that he really wasn't doing all that much great stuff for the community, as far as I can find evidence of. But
well,
it was
you say you're doing great stuff for the community,
right? But it was surprising to me to learn that no wonder Trump was a rival to him. Anyway,
it's funny.
Anyway,
that's a long way, by the way, for the Shaggy Dog story. Is what you just did.
Well, I've been sitting on this.
That was a long route, long route to Tipperary.
You have to understand the amount. Here's what happened. Laura Ingraham did something similar on her show 2 weeks later. And, they had people going after advertisers. Now, we're pretty bulletproof since we have no advertisers. And I had several back and forths where I learned a lot. And thank goodness the people who were emailing with me didn't just say, fuck you, and stop. So I learned a lot about the gang culture, about, you don't, anything with a CK in the word, you don't spell it CK, you spell it CC because CK could be seen as crypt killer. I mean, I learned a lot of gang stuff, and I think Nipsey Hussle was still involved. All I'm saying is just be careful who you worship, that's all. You may now continue hating me.
You should, don't forget, it's Adam@curry.com.
That's right.
He's looking forward to your feedback. Looking forward to it.
Yes, looking forward to your constructive
to
feedback.
This day, I've never heard one of these guys' songs. I've never heard of him. And I'm sure that would be, I should maybe keep up with this sort of thing, but you can't keep up with everything. So I'm out of the loop with this character, and it just seems odd that he got so much attention out of the blue.
And then
at least odd to me.
Then there was an election in Ukraine. A runoff election.
And as we discussed a second ago, with the lack of coverage in the United States of the story about the SEAL, bad actor SEAL, and some other things, why isn't this getting like this? I watched all the news stories for the last couple of days, and I didn't see anybody opening with this or even mentioning it.
Well,
the networks.
The only place I could get it from, a clip, which is, again, from one of our vast network of producers, is from Radio Ukraine International.
Volodymyr Zelensky, a comedian and showman, has scored a landslide victory over incumbent President Petro Poroshenko.
And by the way, for a comedian to score a landslide victory over a guy named Poroshenko, probably the only Ukrainian name everyone has heard of, that's news to me.
Volodymyr Zelensky, a comedian and showman, has scored a landslide victory over incumbent President Petro Poroshenko in Ukraine's runoff presidential vote Sunday. As of 8 p.m. Monday, the Central Election Commission had processed almost 100% of electronic vote count protocols from 200 constituency commissions, according to which more than 73% of voters supported Volodymyr Zelensky, while President Petro Poroshenko collected 24.5% of the vote. The commission said the final results would be officially announced on April 30th.
I can't wait. The comedian wins.
I think it's one of the most hilarious things, and the news media does not want to play this for what you just said. This is extremely newsworthy. I read an article, a very good article, well, a fairly decent article, at least in the Foreign Affairs, and they credit this. They're and this is the front for the Council on Foreign Relations. This magazine.
What magazine is it?
Foreign Affairs. So
okay.
when you whatever they write, you have to assume is being
of course,
policy.
Yes.
So they say what was Zelensky's secret to winning? They announced it as a landslide. People, that's the other thing that makes it newsworthy. It was a comedian getting a landslide victory. They claim it was all just anti-establishment votes. He says, "What was?" And then it made it even weirder.
I think there were some Brexit, some Facebook ads like Brexit that probably influenced.
Yeah, maybe. What was Zelensky's secret? They ask. He ran for president as a virtual candidate, eschewing traditional rallies, political talk shows, and press interviews in favor of comedy concerts, slick social media messaging, and carefully curated appearances on friendly channels. His most original and effective campaign platform was undoubtedly his hit TV series, Servant of the People, in which he stars as an accidental president who crusades against corruption.
Which means we could easily see Julia Louis-Dreyfus running and becoming president.
Yes, technically. I don't think we're as susceptible to this as some other places, but and we do have we already have our TV guy.
We do.
Trump. So we don't need another one. We don't want to do that 2 in a row. But this guy, so he's kind of a Trump because he's coming from a TV show. But this is like a major event, especially since we're so wound up in the Ukraine or in Ukraine, not the Ukraine. That you'd think this would go float right to the top. No, nobody's just said no. Let's don't even talk about it. Why?
Well,
this is the indictment of the mainstream media, right? This story.
That's exactly right. There's that angle, and also this doesn't bring any candidate election money into the coffer. So why would we bother even looking at the story? I mean, Sri Lanka is already gone. It's already gone, and we're back to Beto.
Beto and Buttigieg.
Mayor Pete of the Hamlet.
Mayor Pete of
the Hamlet.
His giant city.
His giant Hamlet.
Gotham.
But instead, of course, we get stories about the new words added to the dictionary.
Oh, I missed this story. This is usually what I catch.
Well, I have a couple of them. New meanings for old words. And I was surprised by some that I thought would have been codified long ago. Snowflake has now been added as
what do you mean by long ago?
Well, snowflake
just cropped up in the last couple of years.
Well, okay. Well, how about tailwind and headwind? These words now are also used figuratively to refer to a force of or influence that either helps or hinders progress. I believe the term tailwind and headwind has been used in that manner for many years.
In this regard, I totally agree.
Yeah. Purple. Purple has an additional. It's not a new. Well, it says new meanings for old words, but of course, it's going to be besides the blending of red and blue. Purple can now refer to geographical areas where voters are split between Democrats and Republicans. Purple.
This is already being used by Klobuchar
by Democrats.
And all the Democrats.
Hillary Clinton had purple on when she was supposed to win. Everybody was wearing purple. Podesta had a little purple tie, had a little purple thingamabob handkerchief.
It could have been code for something else.
It's a purple revolution. It's a Soros thing. Goldilocks. Goldilocks has a new definition, referring to the character whose astronomers use it to describe an area of planetary orbit in which temperatures are neither too hot nor too cold to support life. Just right.
What? When did this show up? I never heard this.
I've never heard it. New compound terms. Now, this is new. Page view is now an official compounded term. So, viewing a page on a website. On brand is now a compounded term. Garbage time, which is the final moments or minutes of a game in which one side has an insurmountable lead.
That's usually almost refers to almost exclusively to basketball, but okay.
Go cup.
What?
Yeah, Go Cup. Plastic. It's not a new word, but now it's an official
Go Cup. My Go Cup's like a Go bag.
Yeah. And screen time, which is very new, but they plopped that one in right away. Now referring to time spent.
You think it's new? See, this is where I disagree with you because I think that's an older term.
Oh, no. They're saying it's a new meaning for screen time.
What's the old meaning?
Referring to the amount of time someone appeared in front of a camera in a movie, dating back to the golden age of Hollywood. Now referring to time spent in front of a screen.
I thought screen time spent in front of a screen has been around for at least a decade.
Well, I wouldn't be doing this item if I wasn't surprised myself. New words, gig economy.
Yeah, jeez, I hate that one.
Vulture capitalism, also
That's
another
not
one.
New.
Well, it's now officially in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. This is what I'm reading from them. Entertainment words, buzzy. That's now a word, buzzy. B-U-Z-Z-Y, causing or characterized by a lot of speculative or excited talk or attention. Buzzy.
It's buzzy.
And then you have a bottle episode.
That I don't understand what that is.
I've been in television a long time. An inexpensively produced episode of a television series that is typically confined to one setting. A bottle episode.
I never heard this term.
No. And finally, EGOT. Of course, we know that one. EGOT, E-G-O-T.
Yeah, you win all these awards.
Yeah, Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and a Choney. So I was surprised. By some of there's some other ones like qubit, which just comes from quantum computing. Gender nonconforming. Ooh, top surgery. There you go. Would you like some top surgery?
I don't think so.
Do you want to know what top surgery is?
Isn't it breast implants or something?
Gender confirmation surgery, in which a person's breasts are removed or augmented, yes. And then there's bottom surgery. Not interested in that?
No, not really.
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh yeah, that'd be fab.
Yeah, on No Agenda in the morning.
Definitely the awkward segue of the year.
That was not a segue. That was a hard break.
Ian Field. It starts off our list of producers for show 1132. $100. Grebulon. Good old Grebulon. He's turning 50 on Friday. We have him on the list. He's 88.88. Ellen Soar, pronounced Soar, in Muskegon, Michigan, $82. And she says, Happy Bunny Day. Sir Mac, 8008. Birthday deal going on there. Happy 33rd birthday. Lucky number. Sir Greg of the Parts Unknown, 8008. Rel in Tallahassee, Florida at 5911. Jonathan Evans, 5555. James Buell in Spring Hill, Tennessee, 5533. Dame Laura of the Snowy Cascades, 5397. Another birthday. Sir Patrick Maycom in New York City, 50. These are all $50 donors, name and location, one after the other. Alexa Delgado in Aptos, California. Jesus Allen in Austin, Texas. Julian Robbins in Aptos, California. Mitchell Kaufman in Hillsboro, Oregon. Maxine Waters Gravel. $50.
That gravel's been coming in every week since you showed up on the scene.
I don't know if it's the same guy, but somebody sent me a gavel.
You got a gavel? You got Maxine's gravel?
Yeah.
Nice.
So what's interesting about this gavel? It's a real one.
You got to say gravel. It's gravel.
Gravel. So that's it. I'm going to hit the wood with it. Is that this is extremely hard wood, and you can really slam it into this gavel catcher.
It came with a gravel catcher?
Yeah, the platform with it.
Oh, nice.
You hit.
Nice.
And it doesn't dent.
perhaps a feature of said item.
Not sure what wood it's made out of, but it definitely does not dent. And I don't know who sent it because it said gift, but it was all I didn't get any information. Probably from Maxine Waters Gravel.
From Maxine's
Joe
Gravel
in Santa
herself.
Rosa, California, and rounding off our $50 donors is Sir Alan Bean over here in Oakland, and that's a list short but sweet.
Yeah, so remember we were talking about the value for value and how we don't have to do extra stuff to get by. This is the kind of day where I need to reiterate that. Very short segments today, and it makes it hard for us. But it is the value for value system, so if you appreciate it, if you like the deconstruction you heard today, what is it worth to you? Did you have any fun? Did you laugh? Anything like that? Just let us know. And you can let us know by going to
Dvorak.org/NA.
Let's see, we have a make good here. Sir Callistra said he needed I think he asked me for this and somehow we might have overlooked it. Need a little just send your cash karma for an investor of ours, he says, who's having trouble funding his commitments, and he needs some house buying karma for himself. Let me see if I have just send your cash somewhere. Where was that? Oh man,
be under a bush.
Yeah, no, no, it's somewhere else. It's I got to.
You can take that to the bank.
I got that one, but that's not the one he wants. Well, I'm going to do the karma first, and then I'll do my best to see if I can find that one for you. So here you go.
You've got karma.
All right. Then did we have any other special karma requests? I think we might have had a jobs karma in there. I'll add one just to make sure.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
That's right. Today is the 25th of April, 2019. We do have a birthday list, and we say happy birthday to John Kressick's son, Andrew. He turns 18 today. Grabulon turns 50 on the 26th. That'll be tomorrow. Sir Max says happy birthday to his smoking hot wife, Dame Lauren, turning the magic number, 33. Dame Laura of the Snowy Cascades. Happy birthday to daughter Molly, will be 22 on May 3rd. And if I'm correct, today is Void Zero's birthday, running all the back office and all the systems for the No Agenda show. We're highly appreciative. Happy birthday, Mark, from everybody here at No Agenda. Okay, we have some meetups to discuss, and we do have one knighting. Here's our list, ever-growing list. You can find this at noagendameetups.com. You can create your own. You can participate. April 27th. Zurich, Switzerland. May 2nd, Seattle, Washington. May 4th, Baltimore, Maryland. May 5th, Brussels. This is a new entry, I believe. The Brussels, Belgium. Seat of the European Parliament, at least half of the time. May 18th, Cincinnati, Ohio. The 25th, the Eastern North Carolina meetup. May 25th as well. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Just added. June 6th, Seattle. You going to that, John? June 6th, Seattle?
No.
Okay. June 8th, Oklahoma City. I was just thinking, we're all going to be in town, you, me, Horowitz, for the wedding on the 19th of May.
Yeah.
Should we make an appearance, a quick impromptu meetup somewhere?
You mean the day before, like on Saturday night?
Not Saturday night, no.
Well, when?
I don't know, Saturday morning. That's
Saturday morning?
Just an idea.
I'm flying in on Saturday. I get in at 1, I think.
Oh,
well, Mimi keeps saying to me, hey, why don't you guys do just an ad hoc a meeting, a little meetup in Austin, and like on Saturday?
I cannot tell you how uncanny the resemblance is between when you do Mimi's voice and her actual voice.
I don't use the same voice. So
very, very close.
So she says that, and I said, well, you know what I'm thinking, I'm going to get in Austin about 1. She's going to be getting later. She wouldn't be able to do the meetup unless it was late.
How about Monday?
You got stuff to do.
Are you guys leaving Monday evening, Monday morning when you leave?
No, I'm flying out Monday.
Okay.
She's flying out Monday. We're all flying out Monday.
Who else is coming? We're all flying out. Just you and Mimi, right?
I got a couple. There's a joke there, and I'm never mind.
Let it go.
I'm just out of sorts. Okay,
Let it go.
So maybe a Saturday afternoon meetup might be something.
Yeah, well, the thing is, we're also hosting like a 5 p.m. thing at the house for out of towners.
Oh,
so
well,
we'll just have the meetup here. Have everyone at the new house. That sounds like a fantastic idea.
Dvorak.org/NA.
Be there, everybody. Hey, let's get Steve Fisher.
Yet.
You're not finished?
Here you go.
I'm sorry?
I got it right here.
It's not coming through. Oh, there it is. It wasn't coming through.
That's lag.
That's weird. I don't know what's going on. Steve Fisher, please step up to the podium right here. We've got the round table of the No Agenda Knights and Dames. You are now entering that exclusive club, my friend. And I'm very proud to pronounce thee, Sir Steve, Knight of the Northern Skies. Like everybody else, you have a choice here at the round table of hookers and blow, rent boys and Chardonnay, cookies and vodka, single malt scotch, chilled Polish potato vodka, horsehead pumpkin ale, waifus and waffles, pog and poi, Dame Elisa's limoncello and salmon, trophies and tiresome milk, breast milk and pablum, ginger ale and gerbils, bong hits and bourbon, Rubenesque Reuben and rosés, geishas and sake, or if you prefer, mutton and mead. It's a Knight and Dame favorite. And head over to noagendanation.com/rings. And Sir Steve, we will get, once you give Eric the Shill your information, we'll get you your night ring, your sealing wax, your certificate, everything out as soon as possible. And thank you for supporting the show. Everybody else, please remember us for the next episode of the show, Dvorak.org/NA. It's very easy to remember because you can sing it.
Dvorak.org/NA.
Easy. Kids love it.
So now we have, of course, it's not in the Trump rotation, but going after Jared Kushner is always a good thing.
Oh, yes.
So I have two clips. I have the human rights group are condemning the Saudis, and then Kushner gets condemned. And then there's second clip, which is the funnier clip, which is Kushner is in the room. But let's play the human rights notations.
Human rights groups are condemning Saudi Arabia's mass execution of 37 prisoners accused of terrorism and espionage. Amnesty International says 11 of the men put to death were convicted of spying for Iran after what it called a grossly unfair trial. Amnesty says at least 14 others were convicted for participating in anti-government protests between 2011 and 12. Amnesty says the 14 men were tortured in order to have, quote, confessions extracted from them. One prisoner's body and severed head were put on display in a public crucifixion. In response, Maya Foa, director of the British legal charity Reprieve, said, quote, that the Saudi regime believes it has impunity to carry out such patently illegal executions without notice should shock its international partners into action.
And her head is gone.
Now, I don't understand what action people are supposed to take. They're a sovereign nation.
Well,
and if they kill people, their own citizens for some reason or other, that's their business. Has to do with their laws.
Well, there's something up. You remember I had that clip from Pompeo when he was in Dallas? Yeah. And he was talking about how, we actually teach our agents in the CIA how to lie and cheat and steal.
Yeah, lie and cheat. Yeah.
So he wasn't just in Dallas just to joke, quote unquote, joke about the CIA. He had a closed-door meeting with 15 Iranian-American community leaders. And this was closed-door, but of course it leaked out that that Pompeo had said to these 15 Iranian-American community leaders that the Trump administration is, quote, not going to do a military exercise inside Iran. Which to me means look out for some other kind of false flag. I don't like using the term, but whenever you say explicitly and let it leak out, why else would he go to Dallas to talk to them? And this comes out of it. Yeah, no, we're not going to do anything. But with these new sanctions, I do not like what is going on. I don't like Pompeo, and it's just the Bolton. It's all the neocon jagoffs.
Yeah, the Pompeo and Bolton. Bolton's the worst.
Why is Trump even allowing this?
You're asking the wrong guy.
He may not know. He may be. I don't think he knows.
It's possible he doesn't know what the hell's going on. I mean, that's what everyone claims, so maybe it's true. Let's hear the second part of this. Is this again Saudi Arabia, anti-Saudi Arabia material going through Democracy Now!
In New York City, senior White House advisor and President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, Tuesday told a Time magazine forum he does not dispute the CIA's conclusion that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered the murder of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. But Kushner said it's more important to focus on American foreign policy interests. At a gala dinner later in the day honoring Time's list of the world's 100 most influential people, comedian Hassan Minhaj called for the release of Saudi women's rights activist Loujain al-Hafloul, who's been tortured since her arrest for opposing the kingdom's male guardianship system and a former ban on women drivers. Minhaj also called out Jared Kushner directly over his close relationship with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
I know there's a lot of very powerful people here, and it'd be crazy if there was just like if there was like a high-ranking official in the White House that could WhatsApp MBS and say, hey, maybe you could help that person get out of prison because they don't deserve it. But that'd be crazy. That person would have to be in the room, but it's just a good comedy premise.
Wow.
Hey, how can you resist if you're a comedian and you want to get this woman out of prison?
Right.
The guy's sitting there.
Right.
You do material.
So that's another thing that I find annoying, the way I see it. Sanctions on Iran, which we've always been the a-holes who determine who can buy oil from Iran. And so now we're shutting that down. And, of course, what happens? The price of gas goes up. How is this good?
It's not good for me.
It's great for Saudi Arabia. They're going to. I think Trump even said, Saudi Arabia can fill up the demand. Yeah.
Here's another screwball clip. This one here is the not emphasized much, but I think at least people should be paying attention to it. This is the Afghan civilians being killed clip.
The United Nations reports that Afghan and international forces killed more Afghan civilians in the first 3 months of this year than Taliban insurgents did. That reverses the trend of recent years. The report says in all there were 581 civilian deaths. Nearly half of those blamed on government and NATO forces occurred during airstrikes.
Well, there you have it.
I have a couple of items of interest. I thought this was a very shallow payback for his endorsement by the President of the United States. I don't know. It must have gotten all kinds of lovely coverage, but I didn't see it.
I'm here on the beautiful Golan Heights.
This is Bibi Netanyahu standing up on the Golan Heights.
I'm here on the beautiful Golan Heights. All Israelis were deeply moved when President Trump made his historic decision to recognize Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. And therefore, after the Passover holiday, I intend to bring to the government a resolution calling for a new community on the Golan Heights named after President Donald J. Trump.
Man, talk about a reach around. I'm going to name a whole hamlet after you. Donald J. Trump.
Donald J. Trump
Donald
City.
J. Trump. Judicial Watch.
Oh, Trumpville.
Trumpville. Yes. Yes, I'll write that one down. Trumpville. Yeah, sounds good.
They like it.
Judicial Watch never gets a lot of exposure. Just a bunch of.
You follow them on Twitter.
Well, yeah, it's a collection of. They're lawyers. I'm pretty sure they're right.
A collection of pissed off right wing lawyers.
There you go.
Hi, Judicial Watch President
Hillary.
Yes, and here's the latest.
Hi, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton here with breaking news on the Clinton email scandal. If you want to know why Hillary Clinton has skated thus far on her email misconduct, it's because Barack Obama is implicated in the Clinton email scheme. The FBI just admitted to us that it had to find Clinton emails in Barack Obama's White House, specifically the executive office of the president. The FBI also confirmed it found up to 49,000 Clinton server emails on the laptop of disgraced former Congressman Anthony Weiner. These disclosures were forced out of the FBI as a result of court-ordered discovery granted to Judicial Watch into the Clinton email issue.
So
It's
that
like
means
a dog and a bone. Those guys.
what that means is that the executive office of the president during Obama's presidency was very aware that they were emailing Hillary Clinton on her private email server.
Yeah.
Because they were receiving from it.
You think that he would have done some sort of a blanket declassification for everything on her server in some way or form to get her off the hook completely? I don't know why they didn't do that.
Well, because she had deleted everything before that could even be a consideration.
Maybe.
Yeah. Then we have follow-up on the Smollett case.
He has not even started healing from the initial attack.
This interview, airing in late March, is cited in a federal lawsuit filed in Chicago today on behalf of brothers Ola and Bola Osundero. Jussie Smollett's attorney, Tina Glandian, appearing on Good Morning America, discussing the open FBI investigation into a hate-filled threat letter sent to Smollett at the Fox Studios in Chicago.
The brothers did come forward and state that they had nothing to do with the letter, but it appears that police, during a search of their home, did seize some magazines with, I guess, missing pages and a stamp book.
There are consequences for the actions that Tina Glandian and Mark Garagos have taken. Today's suit enables us to make sure that those consequences are decided in a court of law, not on a cable news network.
Garagos and Glandian fired back today, saying in a statement, quote, "While we know this ridiculous lawsuit will soon be dismissed because it lacks any legal footing, we look forward to exposing the fraud the Osundero brothers and their attorneys have committed on the public."
My city, my police department, and my clients all deserve to have their reputations restored.
No, well, we shall see. That's pretty interesting now.
Jeez.
Someone's lying somewhere about something.
Yeah, someone. Here's the thing that I could use a little discussion: the census and the Supreme Court clip.
Yeah, this thing is back again. It's very interesting.
The U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments Tuesday in a case challenging the Trump administration's plans to include a question on citizenship to the 2020 census. Voting rights activists feared the question would deter immigrants from participating in the census, leading to a vast undercount in states with large immigrant communities. This could impact everything from the redrawing of congressional maps to the allocation of federal funding.
Okay, here's a couple of things. How many illegal aliens take the census seriously or even contribute to it as is, the way it is now? Do you think if they put a citizenship question that would change?
I don't think they'll participate.
I don't think but do they participate now?
The Democrat left, the left in America certainly wants them to participate. Yes.
In the sense, yeah, of course they do, because they get bigger numbers.
That's right.
They get more
redistricting, more representatives. Exactly.
Okay, so now here's the other question. Noting my initial premise. The other question is, why shouldn't you ask if they're a citizen? I think this is something you need to know. If you don't participate, by the way, it's against the law not to participate.
Correct. And so, and by the way, checking or not checking citizen doesn't mean you're here illegally.
It doesn't mean that.
Your green card, you can be here.
This is just another attempt by the Democrats to, stuff the ballot box, as it were. And so you get a...
well, it's like having convicted felons in jail vote. I mean, this is another thing that they're pushing.
To be honest about it, I don't find that to be as offensive.
You're kidding me.
Why? Because somebody's because somebody got... So let's say we have a country where simple political laws are now all qualify as a felony. So everybody in the country is a felon for just about any. Say shoplifting's a felony. Everything's a felony. So now you can't vote anymore.
No, that's not.
The whole thing is done as a political ploy.
Stop. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
First of all, in most states, if you come out of jail and you've been convicted, you no longer have your voting right. That's not what this is about. I feel if you've done your time, full citizen, you're back on track. You can vote, do all of that stuff. That's not what it's about. While you're incarcerated in jail, that's where they want people to vote. They're all saying it.
Well, that's got scam written all over it.
That's Bernie. It's Kamala Harris. It's Cory Booker. They're all saying this.
Well, the reason,
Mayor
of course,
Pete?
is because, for one thing, if you're in prison and
That's 3 million votes right there.
Well, it's a lot of votes, but you can make that because since you're in prison, you got to do what you're told. You can have to sit down for lunch. They pass out the ballots. Every single person would vote.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be not right. That's not voluntary.
Well, that's
involuntary.
So, but I don't know if you've seen these town halls, but they're asking should the Boston Marathon bomber be allowed to vote in jail? Bernie Sanders said yes.
This argument. Yeah.
It's not an argument. It's lunacy. It's not an argument. There's no argument. They're saying, yeah, I think we should have a conversation about that. Okay, how about no?
Well,
your turn.
This is another one of Bernie's little things. And every time Bernie comes up with something like this is his only new idea. Everybody else jumps on the bandwagon, fearful that Bernie's going to get everybody's vote because Bernie's the only guy with any thought and, anything, any good ideas. Everybody else is just pounding Trump. They don't care about any ideas. So it's caught on. Yeah, it's not going anywhere. I'm sure not worried about it.
I am surprised to see that we have reports of measles outbreaks in the Netherlands and in Canada.
Did you hear about the measles outbreak on the ship?
No.
Yes.
Where's the
ship?
ship?
Clipped it. I shouldn't have.
I didn't know. I didn't know.
There's a Navy ship that is on quarantine now, and it's got a measles outbreak. But the kicker, 100% vaccination rate.
Beautiful.
Just perfect.
Well, these people were only 93% protected because they didn't have their booster later in life.
Yeah, but at 93, it should have been a
herd immunity. Well.
Yeah, so that didn't happen either.
What I'm surprised about is that with all
they're injecting water. Go on.
All these local outbreaks around the world at the same time. Now, I could be cynical and say, well, maybe it's just the local advertising companies who are doing their business, the PR companies getting more measles vaccinations out and into the people. Or why isn't the CDC or maybe the United Nations talking about a global pandemic? Because that's what I see. It's on the cruise ship.
Because they come out with the data on that one, and it's going to be a fail.
Exactly.
It's bull crap.
But it looks good when you chop it up like that. Every country has their little, and they're pushing it everywhere. The same message in every country, but it's all localized.
They got a new marketing guy at Merck.
They certainly have something good going on. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree. So here's my clip, which is the Boy Scout scandal, which is, again, not getting as much play on the networks.
I had to look for it.
In a growing scandal engulfing the Boy Scouts of America, it's been revealed that nearly 8,000 troop leaders have been accused of sexual abuse over a span of 72 years. These findings were announced Tuesday in Manhattan by Jeff Anderson, a lawyer representing sexual abuse victims. According to records known as the Perversion Files, Boy Scout volunteer leaders abused more than 12,000 victims between 1944 and 2016. Anderson named 130 Scout leaders in New York State who had been accused of sexual abuse at Tuesday's news conference, noting that state law had recently changed to extend the statute of limitations for childhood sex abuse.
Wow.
COINTEL. Let me say a couple of things. One, when I was a kid, I was a Catholic and I was a Boy Scout. And the funny thing is that you always heard when you got to be around, at least by 14, you always heard these little rumors about one thing or another, and it would always be about some priest.
Yeah.
And it was just, everyone knew it. It wasn't like a big shock to anybody that some priest was weird. Never heard anything ever about
the Boy Scouts
being abused by, it just never, it wasn't there. I just never heard of this. This is all new. And it's part of a scheme to slam the Boy Scouts for a lot of different reasons.
Well, how about this?
Wait, let me finish my COINTEL idea. Girl Scouts are behind this.
That's what I was just going to say. Where's the data on the Girl Scouts? Girls.
Well, no, the problem the Girl Scouts are having is they're almost going broke, and the girls are joining the Boy Scouts because they like the idea of camping.
Yeah, they like cooking and camping. Yes, and not tying, and that goes well with boys.
Not tying.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think there's something scamish about it.
Yeah, that's. Well, especially since they've gone back and changed the statute of limitations. We'll have to see what happens.
Oh, by the way, that seems a little ex post facto to me.
Yeah, well, apparently that's possible.
I don't think so. I think it's bullshit. I think if somebody took that to the Supreme Court, you can't start changing the terms of crimes after somebody, say, committed one 40 years ago and then the statute of limitations wore off 10 years later.
John,
you can't say, well, there's no statute of limitations anymore.
Ultimately.
The guy was free. He's literally free after 10 years because of the early statute of limitations. It was that important they should have had him extended earlier. I don't like this.
That's how they're going to get us.
So going to get podcasting without a license.
That's right.
But, sir, there was no licensing back then. Well,
sorry, son. No. No, that's how they're going to get us. I'm positive. Or perhaps for identifying memes way ahead of our time. Everyone knows That's true. That's true. I'm hearing this everywhere. We are so on top of all the trends. Here's an ad for NAPA Auto Parts Pro in Scandinavia.
People say that Napa Auto Pro technicians can handle all kinds of jobs. Suspension, brakes, mufflers, batteries.
Hey, it's true.
It's true.
Napa Auto Pro. It's true.
It's true.
Come on, man. It's true. We've set the trend with this. It's true.
It's true. We have. I'll say we should take credit for that.
Just a little bit.
Because we promoted the ISO. It's true.
Yeah.
People pointed out, but we've been pushing it.
No, because we love it. And as a bonus, it's true.
It's true.
All right, you got anything else, or should we leave this?
I got some white collar. But let's get this out of the way. This is this is a little Democracy Now! 48-second clip on Trump's taxes. Everyone's all preoccupied with his taxes.
Meanwhile, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin Tuesday failed to meet a congressionally mandated deadline to turn over President Trump's tax returns to the House Ways and Means Committee. It's the second time Mnuchin has refused a congressional order to turn over Trump's tax records. In a statement, Mnuchin said he'd provide a final answer on whether he would comply by May 6th. Democrats say they need to know whether Trump's myriad business interests, both at home and overseas, are affecting his decisions as president. House leaders are employing a portion of the tax code that grants tax-writing congressional committees the power to request tax information on any filer. The provision was created after the Teapot Dome bribery scandal of Warren G. Harding's administration in the 1920s.
Okay. What was the Teapot Dome scandal?
The Teapot Dome scandal was always considered to be the worst. You have to look it up on the wiki page to get the details, but it was considered the worst scandal in the history of the United States ever.
Huh.
And it had to do with some corruption in the oil business or something like that. I don't remember it anymore. I know that there was a lot of it's all based New York kind of situation. It was just a mess.
Ah, so it was New York based too. Fantastic.
Everything's New York based.
Well, that will do it for now. I'm going to see if the washing machine has arrived. Ooh. Then I'm going to go order new cables and a new mic and all kinds of stuff. I'm going crazy over here. Still don't have my mail. But I am.
Mail, you're never going to get your mail.
I am on the frontier of Austin, Texas, capital of the Drone Star State. And I do hope you will support us by going to Dvorak.org.